Let's hear it for Brendan. See you later, brother. Good job. Thanks, man.
All right. Good morning. Let me shout that. Good morning. Good morning. I've got some time with you here today to share my big 4 best ideas for information marketing. It's the same stuff, the same strategies, the same best insights I've gotten from generating over $50 million in the space of crushing it launch after launch after launch, of setting world records in both products, online views, and webcasts. I mean, we've got a lot to cover in the next 90 minutes. And first and foremost, I'm going to start really nervous about this because I'm like at a Dan Kennedy event. That's like a huge honor and a huge thrill. Years ago when I wanted to come to this, I couldn't afford it. I didn't know how to do all of this. I just wanted to share my message with the world. I know many of you are about that too, that you're here because you've got something you know could help a lot of people. And it's not just about, hey, can we get some money going? We'll talk about that. But it's also about what difference could we make with what we're trying to do here. And a lot of you are also not interested in that, just the old way of doing things. You're not interested in just, making money to make money or throw out some garbage and market it because you can get paid. You're about, okay, I want to build a brand doing this. I want lifetime recurring revenue. I want to reach a lot of people, not just like a small little niche of people. How many people are with me so far? Yeah, I mean, that old idea of just like put up one little ebook, market it, and bail, hey, that's fine. I'm just here to share you right off the bat, that's not what I'm about. I'm here because I want you to reach millions of people with what you know. I'm here because I believe content is commerce today, and if we do it right, we can build brands that most people could never even fathom in our space 5 years ago, because the tools have changed, because the market changed, because what people want from you has changed so much that your ability to charge premium pricing now, your ability to get a lot more customers in the door now, it's like it's never been before. It's probably the most exciting time we have ever done this. And as much as someone could always say that, on stage just to hype up an audience, historically, it's accurate now. When I share my first principle with you, we'll share some data and you go, whoa, I got to reorient my entire approach right now. Because if you all will get online and do it well right now with what you already know about marketing, you'll crush it and no one will catch up to you. But you don't have that much time left. So as much as marketing is supposed to end with the urgency, I'm going to start with it. But first, I want to thank Dan and David D. and just Mike for getting me here, everybody else for being here. This is really like a dorking out experience a little bit right now I'm experiencing, because I know so many of you, I see a lot of friends here, a lot of our clients, a lot of our students here, and this is about one thing today. How can we take your content, your brand, and use it to reach more people to make a greater difference? That's all I ever wanted to do. How many of you have never heard me speak before? I'm just curious. You never met me. A lot of the group. If you didn't know why I'm going to share these 4 reasons, it's just because I figured it out for myself. I never wanted to be the trainer guy. I just had a personal development message I wanted to share. That was it. I wanted to help change people's lives because my life was dramatically changed by an accident I had. And I just wanted to share that message with the world. And then people started saying, well, Brendan, if you want to share a message, you have to figure out marketing. And I was very resistant. I was like, marketing? I don't know how to do any of that stuff, but that was the time when everyone said, start doing email marketing, do a blog, and then video came along. They said to do some video, and all these things that have come in the last 5 years that they said to do. I was probably the most resistant guy about it because I'm from this really small town from Butte, Montana. If we have any Montanans in the room, yeah, we got 2. Half the state is here. Awesome. I grew up in Butte, Montana, which is an old Irish mining town. It had been economically depressed for over a century by the time I was raised there. And it was a tough town, I'll tell you. People know that. It is a tough town. It was a tough town to grow up, too, because we were poor. And my family, as much as they show, my mom and dad were amazing, amazing human beings. But there was the one winter when the heater went out, and we couldn't afford to fix the heater. And so we were waiting kind of 2 weeks to get this heater fixed. But if you've ever been to Montana before, winter in Montana is 20, 30 below zero, for real. It's freezing outside. So when the heater goes out, it's not an inconvenience, it's a life-threatening situation. So what do my parents do, though? That my mom goes into our garage, gets our camping tent, our parkas, our blankets, and brings everything in, puts it up, the tent, in the living room. Puts in all the blankets, our parkas and everything else, goes out, gets the Bunsen burners, if you know if there are any campers in the room. Bunsen burners, she's cooking on the Bunsen burners. And we kids, we're all like, camping. We think it's awesome. We're walking to school. We're like, where'd you sleep last night? We slept in our tent, in our living room. We're bragging about it. We thought it was the most, I grew up with nothing, but I grew up with total abundance. How many know what I'm talking about? It's just like my parents had nothing, but they were so resourceful. If they just figured out a way to make life and things fun, even though we didn't have anything. And so I was lucky to experience that because my abundance in my life, I'm going to share a bunch of numbers with you guys. I'll show you a bunch of data, and people can go, yeah, you're lucky now, and that's how you are now because you reach so many people. I'm like, no, I'm the kid from Montana that didn't have anything. So when I talk about what I have done today to illustrate these principles, it's not braggadocious. It's saying I'm feeling really damn lucky. And I've enjoyed this whole process long before people actually knew who I was. And many of you don't know who I am, which is totally cool. So I started out as that kid. I didn't have anything. I went to high school, met my high school sweetheart. We fell in love, and we decided to go to college together. We go to college together. Everything's going great. I mean, we were that couple that we signed up for our classes together. We borrowed we shared a car together. We had the same friends together. We sat next to each other in every single class together. We ate together all the time. Everything was going well, and then about halfway through the first semester of college, she discovered beer and boys on the same night. And so she cheated on me. And I don't know if you've ever been there where a major relationship falls apart, and sometimes when that happens, you fall apart. And so I fell apart. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't go to classes. I couldn't get my life oriented. My friends would come in and say, Brendan, let's go drink, let's go out, have fun. I just couldn't budge. I didn't shower, I didn't shave, I became a hot mess, which in Missoula, Montana, really, I just fit in. And so the semester whizzes by, but by the end of the year, I'm so miserable and depressed, I start planning to take my life. I'd been suicidal pretty much the whole semester, and then finally I figured out how I was going to do it. And then, fortunately, one day, marketing in some way or another saved my life, which I never really thought about until I was here, actually. I opened up the school newspaper, and there was an ad, full-page ad, in the school newspaper. By Dan Kennedy. No, he's. But there's this full-page ad, and it was this. You know what? He would love this headline. It was this white sandy beach, turquoise water, this palm tree, perfect sky without a cloud, and across the top it said, "Escape." And I was so miserable in my life. That headline hit me, and then it said, students needed for a summertime job in the Dominican Republic. And I didn't know where that was, but I knew it wasn't in Montana, and I wanted to get the hell out of there and the hell away from her. So I said, I'll take it. So I went down to the Dominican Republic and basically became sort of like a glorified tour guide and assisting this entrepreneur around the island and stuff like that, showing people, the shops and taking people jet skiing or whatever we would do. And one night, a friend of mine who'd come down there with me, Kevin, we went to college together, good buddy. And we hop in a car. And it's a little after midnight, returning from a client's house. We just dropped them off after the day's activities. And we start barreling back to where we're staying. And on the way, something happened that brought me here today. And that was, we're flying down this road. It's a brand new paved road in the northeast part of the country. And as we're flying down this road, I remember there was a little bit of magic in the air because all the windows were down and that awesome, steamy, humid Dominican air is coming in and just feeling alive and vibrant. And on the radio is playing one of our favorite songs, Tom Cochrane, Life is a Highway. So we just felt, life is a highway. When we were flying down this road and we came upon a corner that in the United States would have had one of those big U-turn shaped arrows. watch out, be careful, sharp corner ahead. But in a developing country, new paved road, there was no sign. And so that corner became my turning point. As we rounded the corner, Kevin grabs the wheel, the headlights show, immediately we know we're not going to make the corner. Kevin grabs the wheel and says, "Brendan, hold on." And he cranks the wheel, and some things happened to me in those few moments. I don't know if they were cognitive or just emotional, or I thought about them later. I don't know exactly how but it landed, because when you go into that death turn, right, when you're going to slam into death's doorway, and you got a second of cognition, you think about life, right? That brace you feel in that sudden moment, that sudden brace, that's concern, that's fear, but it's also, if you have a second to think about it, that whole thing that enters your mind is, if this is it, if you're about to die, did I live? Did I live? Did I live my life? Was I alive and vibrant? If this is the end for me, was I present? Was I joyous? Was I cheerful? Did I experience this life? Or did I ho-hum through my everyday existence? Did I just kind of get up and go through the routine every day? You want to know, did I live so bad it aches in your bones? Because that's where regret comes from for so many people later on in their lives. They're like, gosh, I didn't do the things I wanted. I didn't take action. I didn't live. I didn't experience. I didn't have enough fun. They all say it. Well, as I experienced that thought and that feeling, I obviously didn't like the answer to the question, did I live? I've been thinking about taking my life, not living it. I mean, part of all of our awakening is realizing that, the importance of life isn't because there's a distant death, that the real challenge of life is a detachment from living today. And so we went in that corner, and the car started doing that weird slow motion side skid thing. And as we started skidding off the road, the car shifted like this, and I smacked my head, and I started seeing all these images. The car started flipping in the air. And I saw these images of my life when I was surrounded by people that I cared for, like family and friends and just moments. And it wasn't like some big omniscient viewpoint from God or anything like that. I didn't see there's little Brendan and his birthday cake when he was 12 with his friends, or there's little Brendan and there's my sister Helen and me and on a swing set. I saw things from my own perspective, my own eyes. So there's a cake in front of me. There was my friends gathered around, and my mom singing that goofy song she always sings. And there was no little Brendan, there was just my sister there next to me, just swinging and smiling. And you see all these images of people that you love, and it makes you wonder, did I love? Did I love openly and honestly and completely? Or did I hold back because one time I got hurt? Which is my story. I got hurt so bad in that relationship, I shut off that whole year. I closed out my heart, put on the mask, built up the facade, whatever you want to call it. We all have a metaphor for it, but we all know the same story. It's like when you build up walls of self-protection to keep out the bad guys, who else can't get in? The good guys. In our self-protection, we end up blotting out the very thing we so desperately desire. And so you'll wonder, did you really love? Because you'll wonder who missed you or who will miss you. You'll think about who you will miss. The car came to a crashing, rolling stop. I got knocked out completely. When I eventually came to, I looked over, and Kevin was screaming at the top of his lungs, "Brendan, get out of the car, get out of the car, get out of the car." And I looked over at him, and he had a huge chunk of his head was open and blood everywhere. And he's screaming to get out of the car. I don't know if the car is on fire. I don't know if we're in trouble. I have no idea what's going on. He's just terrified. He gets outside the driver's side window, and I go to get outside my window, but I can't. The car is smashed down on top of me. All I got in front of me is that what used to be an opening for the windshield, and there was this moment that I was able to crawl through the windshield of this car, and I stood up on the crumpled hood, and I looked down, and there's all this blood coming off of me onto the hood of the car, and I felt like life draining out, and I felt this fear as a young man facing his mortality for the first time. I'd never thought about life, really, and I felt life draining out of me, and the blood was pooling over the hood of the car, and I was about to pass out, and I just remember thinking for a moment, did I even matter? Maybe I didn't change the world, but I changed somebody's world. Was there a reason or a purpose to all of this? I didn't like the answer to that question because I was a dumb kid, didn't know why we're here, hadn't thought about making a difference, about service. I just never really thought outside of myself, really. I was a kid. I was about to pass out, and then I saw this glint in my blood as it was going off the hood of the car, this little sparkle, something, light or something, reflection, and it made me look up. And there was this bright, big, beautiful moon that night. It's like one of those moons that's so big you wonder why it's so big, and the blueness of it was emanating to the whole sky. And I remember I just felt this connection. I felt like this amazement that I was still here. And I felt like the big guy up there at that exact moment had kind of reached down with life's golden ticket, like a second chance, you know? It's like, here you go, son. You're still alive, you can still love, you can still matter, but now you know the clock is ticking. And I remember getting that ticket. I thought, I will earn this. You know? I will earn this gift of life. And I realized how precious life was. And I lucked out. Kevin lucked out. We lucked out. We're a happy story. We survive this thing. We get robbed, and then we eventually end up in the hospital. And we end up in a hospital, and we, two white kids in the wrong place, at the wrong time, at the wrong era, in a lot of hurt, and it demonstrated humanity. One group walked by, robbed us. Another group walked by and saved us. We get to choose which kind of people we're going to be. I end up thinking about these questions over and over, and this experience I have of these questions. Did I live, and did I love, and did I matter? And I think about those answers to those questions, and I just remember waking up every day and thinking, you know what? This is going to change my life. Because if we know what the answers, or if we know what the questions are that we're going to ask at the end of our lives, then that gives us the gift of living each day so that we would be happy with the answers at the end. So I don't know what your questions are, but I encourage you to ask them, to find out what they are. How are you going to evaluate your life at the end of your life? What is it going to be for you? How are you going to really evaluate whether or not you're satisfied and joyful and blessed and grateful for your life? How would you know? And then wake up every day living into that. Because I believe we all get life's golden ticket. We all get the second chance in some way or another, right? Every day we wake up. You woke up today, tomorrow you wake up, you get to choose more that day of who you're going to be. If you're conscious, you get to choose that day, am I going to be more present, more joyful, more loving, more caring, more focused? What am I going to be about? And that's the greatest gift we got. It's life's golden ticket, second chances. And it's not just two chances. How many of you have already had an accident or a major wake-up call in your life that you already feel like you've gotten more than one second chance? Raise your hands high and look around the room. Most of us have experienced something that made us recognize the appreciation for life, the magic of it. And all I wanted to do was just tell people, hey, you have this second chance. Because what happened is I went back to college after that experience. And any of you ever gone back home and you went to a seminar or you had a life transformative experience and you went back home and you were the only one that changed? Anyone ever experienced that? Just me? And what do they say to you? You all of a sudden you're alive, or you're excited, or you're focused, or your dream comes in fruition. What do they say to you? What's wrong with you? That's what everyone said. They'd say, because I came back a different person. I was on fire with life, man. I was like, okay, I'm going to ask if I'm going to live. I'm going to live. I mean, I'll do anything. Let's go, guys. I got adventurous and crazy. I mean, I would anything. I said, let's go. I was in for it. I was like, if I'm going to live, I finally started showing the world who I was through my heart because I realized, you know what? I'm going to see some images at the end. I want to be with people who I love and I care for. And I finally got the idea that maybe I was here for a higher purpose than just satisfying my simple impulses and needs as a person. And so I was living, and everyone was like, what's wrong with you? And I'd tell my story. And then some people would say, well, you know, geez, that's inspiring. You should write a book on that. I'm like, I don't know how to write a book. They're like, well, you should like be a motivational speaker. I was terrified to speak to people. 1, 2, 3 people, I was okay. More than that, I would get freaked out, totally freaked out. And then video comes along. Well, you know, you should quit your job, Brendan, because I went and got a normal job, became a consultant. And I thought it was pretty good. Worked for a major Big 5 consulting company. That was an awesome experience. But as I tell more people through that experience, I say, Brendan, you need to write this down. You need to sell it. You need to do seminars. You need to do workshops. You should be a life coach, a business coach. You know, you should take this internet, this blog thing, do these videos, you know, like online marketing and stuff. And I'm like, I'm from Montana. You know? We just got horses. You know, we're like, this is a little far. Yeah. But I knew what they were saying was true in some way. Because how many of you have already been told by somebody, you got something to share with the world? Be honest. Like someone said, you should be out there more. So most of the room. If no one's ever said it to you, I'm saying it to you. You've been through enough. You don't need a knock in the head. You don't need to get cancer again or for the first time. You don't suddenly need a breakup or a relationship. You don't need a catastrophe to finally decide to share who you are with the world in a major way and get paid for it. This is the new economy. It's where it's going to continue going. We're going to continue seeing you in front of people. Now, I know you all know that, but the challenge is most people haven't fully accepted it. They haven't figured out this first principle concept, that we only have, in the epoch of history, we only have these times where there's a window in front of us. And in the window, that window closes. The opportunity closes. And let me share with you by data what I mean by this and why you really need to tune in to everything I'm talking about, especially if you give a damn about sharing something important with the world. Here's the reality. Today, 25% of the world is meaningfully connected. So in data speak, many of you guys know I'm a big kind of tech investor now, but in data speak, meaningfully connected means, someone can watch like a YouTube video on their handheld, and it streams. They can watch the whole video, right? That's what we could kind of consider meaningfully connected. Enough bandwidth to pull that off. 25% of the world. Let me ask this question and be honest about this. You remember the iPhone came out in 2007. How many of you feel like since that date, a lot has changed? Look around the room. But only 25% of the world have access to anything reasonable that would even work on that. So you think a lot has changed in the last 7 years because 25% of the world had that? In the next 3 years, 3 billion new people will come online. 3 billion. We will invert the pyramid. We will go from 25% of the world meaningfully connected to 75% in a matter of 3 years. Now that's my estimates and our estimates with an X Prize. I'm on the board there. But a lot of people would say, nah, Brendan, you're being too advanced with that. But even conservative measures say it's between 5 and 6. Even conservatives, between 5 and 6. So let's do the math here. If you think life changed for you, if you think everything shifted for you in the last couple years when only a quarter of the world had the technology that you feel like changed the world, what is going to happen when 75% haven't, when the pyramid inverts? Here's what's going to happen. Historically, we know exactly what's going to happen. There is going to be a time of adoption and a time of success and a time of divide that will never again happen in the history of the world. We can't even contemplate what it's about. Like, we don't even know. It's going to change everything so radically. But everybody in this room, if you are ever going to print money, I mean, you're ever going to make a lot of money, information marketers, I have to tell you this, you're going to do it in the next 3 to 5 years. You're going to become so friggin' wealthy if you put these practices into play. You don't know what to do with it. I've seen it myself. 40% of my business is international now. 40% of a $20 million plus company. I do 100% of my marketing. You got an email from me? I sent that to you. I coded it in HTML. You see something on Facebook, a picture, a post, I built that. You see my blog post, I write it. I do 100% of the marketing in my company. And I do that because I have to teach this stuff. 1, I want to be always there and understand it. 2, because I know I have to teach it. People come to our programs like Experts Academy, someone might stand up and say, Brendan, I'm trying to figure out this friggin' Infusionsoft thing. I can't figure out how to tag this audience and exclude this one. I said, come up here. We'll log them in. We'll show them in front of people. I have to be able to do that. So I kind of have an idea of what works online and how to do it. But let me share with you why that's important and why you have to figure that out. What are all these 3 billion new people going to be doing? What? Searching, apps, buying, learning, video. You know what they're going to do? They're going to do the same things you were doing at 2000. Same things. Do you remember when YouTube really took off? Do you remember when Facebook really took off? There's a concept called platform maturity, if you haven't heard of it before. It's when platforms evolve to what is essentially their highest maturity of growth. And now we have experienced that mostly in the connected world with YouTube, Facebook, Google, and some other platforms. But those are the primary drivers right now. So let's do this real quick. Are you there? Because in the next 3 to 5 years, as 3 billion new people, they're going to be searching for the same things everyone else, all of us have been searching for it. We take it so casual what we search for. We have no idea. That's what everyone else is doing. And the good news for all of you who are like, no, Brent, you don't understand. I don't have the keywords to do that. Guess what's happening to the entire world of SEO? Everything. The rug, gone. 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 Even if you are in this room and you own you feel like you're pretty high on Google, you're screwed if you don't have a plan for the next 2 years. You're screwed, you'll be gone, you won't be on page 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. You're done if you have no plan. Everything changed. The algorithms all changed to focus and to do what? To move towards the major platforms. It's the first time it's ever happened. Now you can be on Google page 1 with some YouTube, with some Facebook, with some social media that other people have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. This is the time to claim your mark, and you cannot miss this boat. Because here's what happened in the online marketing world. I mean, how many of you feel like you are significantly doing a lot of your revenue online where you're killing it. You're at least 7 figures above online. Automated. Okay, do we have a problem? I think you have a huge problem. What if it was just 6 figures? What if it was just 5 figures? What if it was just $5,000 a month that was coming in online? You think, oh, if that sounds so hard, well, what if you had a, let's say, $500 online course online right now? $500. How many would you have to sell to make $5,000 that month? How many? 10. So if I'm freaking you out with these numbers, no. If you sold 10 online courses a month for $500, you'd be at $5,000 a month. Let's add a 0 to it. What if you sold 100 a month? How much would you have? How much? 50 grand. How many of you would like an extra 50 grand a month? It keeps the lights on. No, it fuels the jet once a week. I think it'll be fine. But most people they're missing the window because here's what they're saying. Well, Brandon, I'm not a marketer. I'm not an online person. I'm like, no. You must be an online person today. There is no choice. If you are not, you will and your family will be broke in 5 years unless you have some amazing bank account sitting there printing you money because the new economy is online. That's it. It's period. But most people are avoiding it. And here's what happened. You know, when the first boats came in, we were all on one big island called the non-techie, non-online marketing world. And what happened is a bunch of crazy adventurers, young kids went out there. They made a bunch of money. They came back in boats with some gold. And they said, There's gold out there, that ocean of opportunity. There's a blue ocean out there, and in that blue ocean is money online, and it's easy. But everyone stood on the shore and said, crazy kids, you're going to drown out there. You're going to fail. You'll be starving. But some people said, shit, that's crazy. Let me go out there. So they got the boats. Second wave of boats went out. They came back with more gold and silver, and they were like, there's money in this blue ocean. And it's easier than anything we've ever done. There's more abundance out there than we've ever seen or been able to scale on this island ever. So more people went out. They all came back. They said, guys, you guys are crazy if you're still not in this online marketing game. What is your deal? They went out. There will be no fifth wave of boats because no one's coming back. The people on the island who are not in the game are going to starve and be forgotten. And I don't mean to make that dramatic. The digital divide is coming in such a significant way. You have to understand how significant this divide will be. When you talk about 3 billion new people, and those 3 billion new people are going to find who? They ought to find who? They ought to find you all. You already know information, and that's all they want. You just have to change your mentality and get the damn products online. Get them running. And forgive my language here, but it's like this window closes, and the digital divide doesn't catch up. And it freaks me out, the people who missed it the first time. In the last people who missed it, the last digital divide, if you didn't know anything about me, I'm a historical nut. I study history obsessively because I want to understand what has happened, and I want to be able to plan intelligently. We haven't had a divide this big since the difference between blue collar and white collar from the Industrial Revolution. How many follow? Raise your hands. We haven't had it. That last wave where we see towns all around the world, including in this state, that were decimated because they did not catch up beyond the industrial economy. They did not catch up to what we considered knowledge work, information processing. That wave, we've lost cities to that. I was just in Detroit. We've lost cities, great American cities. And you know what? That was just a 2.5-decade phenomenon. The challenge is this next phenomenon happens for you in what will essentially be 3.5 years. You need to get on fire for this online marketing stuff now. Just even if I don't want me to scare you, just to like, hey, look, you're going to make more money than you've ever made your entire life. Anyone willing to get excited about that in the morning, say yes? More than you've ever made your entire life than you could ever imagine. And it's not, I'm not being a hypester. It's like, it's inevitable. If you are online and suddenly your revenue and if you're online and suddenly you take your same amount of traffic, but you add, 50% more of the world searching those same things, and they find you, if your traffic increases by 50%, even if we're just throwing stupid numbers around, you can't help but make more money. But you got to be there, and that is why you've got to focus right now more than you ever focused in your entire life. I'm telling all my customers, I've been saying it for 2 years on stage. I will still continue to say it. You've got 18 months now. 18 months to get there. 18 months, bust your ass, shoot the videos, get the products done, get it up there. And if you won't do it for the money, and if you won't do it to avoid the digital disaster that's coming for people, then do it because you know you're going to be able to change tens of millions of more lives than any previous generation ever even had the friggin' opportunity to. Do you know how hard it used to be to reach people? And how challenging it used to be to start a business? We are an incredibly blessed generation. I don't mean my age versus your age. I mean those of us who are alive today in this room. We are beyond blessed. And if we fail to utilize the tools of this time, shame on us for not giving a darn about helping people all around the world. I think we have an exceptional opportunity. It wakes me up every day. I'm this fired up every day, and I'm this annoying all the time. I mean, like all the time, because I can't believe how amazing this is. So, 18-month challenge for you all. Get online, dominate in your area, be there, because they're going to find you and you're going to win. You game? Say yes? Yes. You got to get there. Second aspect, very simple. I coined this for Apple, and it became a big thing. I didn't know it was such a big thing. The integrated product suite. The single most important thing information marketers need to understand when they go to build stuff. The integrated product suite. Now, if you saw my launch for Total Product Blueprint, or you've been a Total Product Blueprint member, you know the importance of this. If you don't, I'll invite you at the end to help you with this. Very simple. The integrated product suite, I casually named, I didn't know it was a big deal at the time. People were asking me, asking what Apple's strategy was. And it was really, if you're in the business strategy industry, which I am, I'm very fascinated by business strategy. And I help big companies like an Amazon figure out a lot of strategy for the coming future, because I love this stuff. That's why I got on the board at XPRIZE as well. We look into the future. And so here's what happened. People were saying, well, what was the strategy? Well, Apple's really taken off. They had just become the #1 brand in the world, but still people didn't know how or why, other than what would people say? It's because of Steve Jobs. Well, Steve Jobs is not a business strategy. A strategy is something that can be replicated. You and I can't replicate Steve Jobs, right? So saying it was Steve Jobs or even his team is not the answer in business strategy. You can't name a strategy a person or a team. A strategy has to be replicable. So people ask me, what's their strategy? Well, it's very simple. I just looked and saw what they did. And so what did they do? Remember they came out with the iPod? Now remember, I mean, how many of you bought an iPod or owned an iPod just out of, yeah, most of us, right? So the iPod, it wasn't this big, wow, success like everyone thinks it was. It wasn't at all. It actually took longer than they wanted it to. It was like a 2-year kind of slog. They were a little concerned about it for a little while. But then it started really taking off. But they kind of saw it like, wow, people really like this mobile, carry the thing along with them, listen to their tunes thing. What other things similarly, what aligned segment that could we connect to that would take the same technology to another level? So they came out with the iPhone. So now we've got the iPhone. It's integrated because it's on the same platform called iTunes. Now everything goes boom, 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 boom. The amplification was unbelievable. 2 products stitched together on a similar platform, essentially. Different aligned categories of customers, but a different approach, which I'll tell you in about a second. Third, okay, now they got that going. Now what do they come out with? Yeah, the iPad and their suites of new laptops. So now the iPad also talks to all those, just a different aligned category, same type of customer ambition line, which we'll talk about, than the laptops. And all of a sudden they went, whoom. And that's how you're going to do it. You're going to create blockbusters. What are you going to create? Can't hear you. What are you going to create? You need to stop thinking about creating a bunch of little things that you can spin out quickly to make some dollars on. You need to stop that. And the people who tell you that are not doing well online today. They are not. They might be doing a little bit. They might help be good to inspire you and kick you to start something. But I'm here to tell you, create quality because no one will catch you ever. And that's important in the next 3 years because of the window. So what ends up happening? So what you do is you figure out, how do I create a blockbuster here? And do it so well and get so much traffic to it. It's kind of printing money for me. It's doing great. And then, what would be an adjacent market category or an adjacent need that serves the same ambition line of the customer? I know lots of dumb words here that I've made up, so let me help you with that one. You create your blockbuster. What's going to be the brand for you? The real product? You know, for me, I started out in the personal development space. And then I went to the marketing space. So it was like the Life's Golden Ticket seminar series. And then it was like partnership seminar. And then it was like Experts Academy and High Performance Academy. These were like blockbusters I created. But I only created one at a time. Like my story from my videos that really caught on and people talk about with me, they're like, well, Brendan, he created 6 new brands over a period of 6 years. And each of them did 7 figures or more in their first year. And they're wowed by that. But I go, no. But please listen to the message. I didn't do anything else that year. See, what most people do is they got a shovel, they got a tool, they got a new idea, and they go around, they digging all over the place in this open field of opportunity with no strategy. And what happens for them? They kind of dig down a little bit. They get a couple of inches down. They're like, there's no gold here. So they go over here, dig down a couple more. There's no gold here. Nothing's happening here. They dig down a couple more. No gold here. And so at the end of their lives, when you look at their field of opportunity, it's a bunch of half-dug holes. No focus, no depth. But those of us who are crushing it online right now, crushing it, all we are doing, instead of that, we go in and say, okay, I got this tool here. I'm going to create a Wellspring. I'm going to create a Blockbuster. So we go over, we know where to go over, we dig down. Same as the first guy. There's not a lot of gold at first. It's frustrating. There's like not a lot of flakes of gold. So we go a little bit deeper, like, not a lot of gold here. But we keep staying on top of it. And then one day, phoom, we hit that vein of gold. And we're like, whoa. And we set the foundation of our business on top of that, like miners did in Butte, Montana. Long before I got there, when Butte, Montana was the 5th city in the world to have full electricity. Because when they dug down, they found copper. And copper was king before steel and aluminum. So you had Paris, London, DC, New York, I think Chicago, then Butte. I might have got that wrong. We might have been the 6th. But they built the whole foundation on that. The problem is they didn't change, so they didn't keep up. But I'm going to tell you how to change in a moment on one of these other slides. So here's what we have to figure out. What's your big product going to be? And you got to work that thing, and then you say, how can I integrate it with the customer's ambition line? Let me define that for you with Apple products, and then I'll define it with what we're doing. Same thing you should be doing. So what that means is Apple said, okay, the ambition, what is the ambition of the customer? Notice I didn't say the problem, which we'll talk about for the marketers in here who have still not gotten beyond problem marketing. If you're only doing problem marketing, I have really bad news for you. You're about to become a commodity if you're not already. Solving problems is not enough anymore. It was 5 years ago. It's not now because you can find the answer to almost anything you need where? Google. It's already there. Answering problems is a commodity. It's needed, it's necessary as part of your overall messaging, but it is not enough. Look, what problem did the iPhone really solve? What? You could say, well, phone sucked? No. He didn't try and market it that way. It was towards an ambition line. He wanted to create, when you read and you understand what they were doing in the Valley at that time, the focus was how do we create the central hub of the lifestyle of our consumers? Because our consumers want a different quality of lifestyle and user experience than they've ever wanted before. If it was just solving problems to make a better phone, they would have put buttons on it. But they were going into a whole new digital age. They were trying to take it to that next level and that customer ambition line. So what does that mean for information marketers? Here's what it means for us. Whatever we dig our hole in, let me use examples of our 2 famous programs in the marketing space. So Experts Academy, I created a Blockbuster with that, right? It's a 4-day event. It teaches authors, speakers, coaches, seminar leaders, and information marketers how to build a real brand doing it, how to monetize their content in the modern world, okay? So that was crushing, right? $2,000 per ticket for that event. It crushes it. So I build that up, multiple millions every single year. But then the question has to come, okay, if I'm going to go to that next level of growth, what would I need now? Well, I need another Blockbuster, and I need to string it together somehow, just like Apple did. So I started thinking about it, and I said, okay, what's the next ambition for these folks on this ambition line? Okay, well, they kind of learn about the business, they learn everything, but now they need, let's say, a specific skill set. You know what? A lot of them probably want to learn. They come to the program, they learn all the marketing, they know how to do video marketing, they know how to do everything else, but they're like, I'm not a good speaker. I suck on video. I'm scared up on stage, or I don't know how to do those webinars and webcasts. This freak me out a little bit. I don't like the sound of my voice. I don't know how to move. That is a problem. And they're trying to get their message out to millions of people. That's their higher ambition. They're going to have to learn how to become great speakers. So I started World's Greatest Speaker Training. Boom, that's the next pillar. How many follow? So with an integrated product suite, what you have is you have these 2 aligned things. So if that sounds too complicated, here's a simple thing. Whatever you're going to sell that's kicking butt, what's the next skill or competency they would have to acquire in order to go to the next level? That's your next product. Raise your hand if you follow. Then your job is just to create the integrated product suite like Apple did. notice their integrated product suite was escalating in prices, right? iPod costs this much, iPhone this much, iPad this much, computers that much. So you create an escalating product suite within that, meaning within each of these products, categories, like Experts Academy, it's just very simple. Experts Academy, I have a book for sale related to the brand. I have a 6-disc audio program related to the brand. And I have an online course with the live event related to the brand. World's Greatest Speaker Training, same thing. Total Product Blueprint, same thing. So within each major brand, I only have 3 products. Not 7, not 15. And by the way, there's only 12 products you can create for any given thing in the information marketing space. So if you haven't heard of Total Product Blueprint, basically what I do is I say, look, there's only 12. I've made $1 million with each of the 12. Let me just give you the outlines. You don't know how to create a 6-disc audio program? Here's what to say in each of your 6 discs for your own topic. You don't know how to market a 6-disc audio program? Here's what to say in the sales video specifically to sell a 6-disc audio program. Because selling a 6-disc audio program is very different than selling an online course, right? It's different. And most people in our industry keep struggling because they're trying to launch things the same way over and over and over. It doesn't work. To market a DVD home study course, you have to use different structure to create it, and you have to use a different structure to sell it. How many follow? Right? So that's what Total Product Blueprint is. It's a $2,000 course. It comes with the $2,000 ticket to Experts Academy. I'm going to be giving some of you that for free at the end of the presentation, if you'll enroll in something else. Integrated product suite. How do you create each product so well, so compelling that people have to buy it? What do you need to say in it to create it? Because most people, what I found out is they're really smart. You guys are smart. The challenge is they don't know how to create these products. They're like, I'm not sure what to put in an ebook, but worse, I don't know how to sell an ebook. So Total Product Blueprint says, here's what to say. Here's your outline for your ebook. Then when you go to sell it, this is what the sales video must say. And it's not a guess. These things have been optimized 1 million times over by me because each of them made $1 million. I think today, if I hold a record that's more impressive to me than the online stuff, I think I'm the only one who's made $1 million with each of the 12 major categories of information products, including apps and online courses and webcasts and webinars in the last 3 years. I don't think anyone else has done it. I don't think they have. Thank you. And the only reason I say that is because that's what Total Product Blueprint teaches you. Whatever product you want to create, I'm going to show you the best outline and the best way to market it, including what your page should look like, including what template I would recommend for it. It's the most comprehensive online information product there is today that I know of, period. Plus, it comes with the live event to the program. It's awesome. I'll invite you all to that at the end if you want to do something with me online, which I'll show you. Integrated product suite. No matter what, go with me or not go with me, how many get the idea you need to create a blockbuster fast? Okay, then you need to think through create a blockbuster brand, create just 3 products around it, then go ahead and create that next brand. Charge a little bit more for it. Create 3 things around it. If you just had 2 of those, when I had 2 of those running up, I was at $4 million a year. I added a third, I went to $7 million a year. I added a fourth, I went to $15 million a year. Once I added the 5th, the 6th, and 7th, that's the ones where I crushed through the 20 million mark. By myself, with a team of 6 outsourced team members. It's not about having a big team or brand anymore. It's about knowing what to do online. That's it. Oprah is doing online courses, so I got the call last week to help her with that. When anyone does an online course today or does something online, I get the call. Arianna Huffington, I get the call. Amazon, I get the call. The biggest companies in the world, I get the call because I know what to do online. And Total Product Blueprint is teaching you that by itself. People say, if I could study anything, what should I study? I go, that one. That's it. Because here's what it also will help you understand. This one. You got the products, huge. Next segment, the automated marketing campaigns. Automated marketing campaigns. It's so simple. If you don't have an automated thing running in your business to generate revenue and traffic right now, you don't have a business. You have hourly pay, you have hourly efforts, but it's not a business yet. Because if there's no predictable level of revenue, I wouldn't call it a business, I'd call it a hustle. Right? How many know the difference? There's a big difference between a business and a hustle. And I hustled for a long time before I figured out that one. And I know many of you are in that way where you're just busting your butt. I mean, you're working, man. And none of your family can't understand it. They're like, why are you working so hard? And you're like, because I have to. Don't we all believe that, Stott? I totally believe that. At Experts Academy one time, we had Harv Eckert speaking on our stage. And Tony Robbins one time speak on the stage. And both of them asked the same question backstage. They're like, how are you doing this? You know, we had 800 people in the room from 46 countries. They're like, I don't get it. How do you do this? I go, what do you mean? I go, I never even saw you market this event. I said, yeah, God, I hate marketing live events. They're like, well, how do you have 800 people here? Do you have field service reps? Because that's what you used to have, right? The guys in the field who would sell tickets, they drop into a town, they go to the phone book, they go to all the companies, and they try to sell tickets. I said, no, God, hire somebody. Why? And they're like, and they can't believe it. And everyone knows the story. I took 17 weeks off last year. 17 weeks off. I'm from Montana. A week off means off. You know, no phone, no laptop. I mean, off the grid kind of nonsense. Like, you know, on an island somewhere where no one can find me, like having fun. You know, go on a vacation with a wife, gone, off the grid. People should have that in their lives, but they can't. They believe because they think, I have to do this. No, what you have to do is stop spending so much time hustling hour by hour and take some training to learn how to automate things, period. The most important thing you can do in your life is figure out how to automate your business. And I'd say this to a group, if you weren't information marketers, it's the most important thing, but many of us are resistant to it. If you came from a culture like I did, we hated tech. We don't like technology. Even to this day, they don't like it. They bemoan it, like it's the end of the earth or something. It's the savior for you, of your life and your family, when you have these products. See, you get these products, they're built, and they just sell forever online. That's an automated marketing campaign. It means you set something up to drive the traffic, which could be just straight up content. It could be straight up viewership. It could be ads if you want to do ads, which we'll talk about. And then they come in, they go through a sequence where they're added a lot of value, a traditional launch program, like process, like if you ever done like a product launch formula or something, right? They go through traditional marketing, they get a couple free pieces, and then you say, hey guys, if you like that, I got this. But that all runs all year automated. See, I discovered this because, how many of you do live events, your own workshops or stuff? Or want to, just out of curiosity? See, the thing that sucks about live events is, well, I love live events. I do 9 a year, big ones. But here's the challenge. You only get to market it like the 90 days in advance, because no one signs up in advance for events, ever. I mean, even Oprah deals with filling her stadiums. No one signs up for that thing until the last, 3 months before. They're terrified. It's that way for almost every promoter I know, except my clients and myself. Because here's what I discovered. And if you get one idea, it's this automated marketing thing, it will change everything for you. Here's what I said. I said, well, what if, because, let's say I'm going to do an event in October. That means I really need to start pushing that thing hard August and September, right? But I can't predict how many people to have there. I don't know, because no one signs up for until there's 60 days for a live event. So I said, stop marketing live events. So I stopped marketing live events. Stopped, 100%. I market online courses. And that online course comes with the ticket to the live event. Change the game. Because how many months of the year can I market an online course? How many? 12. All year long, I'm marketing the online course. They get a ticket. Now look, if you go out in January and say, hey, buy my live event ticket to my October thingy, they're going to be like, no, I don't even know what's going to happen after Father's Day. What are you talking about, October? No one will sign up. You'll be broke. But they'll buy my stuff. My event's in October too, but they're going to get immediate access to training online right now. And because they want access when? When? Right now, they buy it. And now look at that. January, February, March, April, May, June, July. I know how many tickets I've already sold. So I booked my hotel room. Got the hotel room. It's the right size every time. You ever get hit with those bills from the hotel because you didn't put enough people in the rooms? Let me tell you what, that's a scary place to live. I haven't lived that place in 6 years when I figured this stuff out. That's an automated marketing campaign. It's running all year round. It's making money all year round. Look, if you did nothing, but you put an online course up there for $500 and you sold 10 a month, at least we got you up to $5,000. If you sold 100 a month at $500, what do we got you at? 100 times 500. I'm asking marketers to do math. This is such a bad idea right now. It's called a lot of money. So if you'll do anything, create an online course. Will you do that, yes? Just that. Just that. Now, I'm lucky. I got like 7 online courses, and they run all year round. And all year round is part of this last panel I'll show you. I'm just crushing it. The traffic comes in. They go through that. They give me their name and email. They come through that name and email. And then what? They get some value. We teach them some stuff. And then we offer a course. Then we send them back to that course to buy it 3 times. How many? 3. So they buy, if they don't buy it, we remind them about it 3 different times. And then they're out. Then it starts the next sequence of value. They start getting the next thing from that second and third and fourth and fifth brand. So they're just going through one brand at a time. They enter their name and email anywhere on, if you today enter your name and email on any of my sites, I'm going to talk to you for the next 190 days, every week, automated. You know what that gives you? Predictability in your business. Because you know what? If I stopped working today, my income is the exact same for the next 190 days minimum as it was the last 190 days, assuming it was the same traffic coming in, which it is. So now you have a predictability in revenue. Now you can actually do these things that they talk about in business, like think about a budget. Or for me, think about where we're going to travel next, because I like to go places. So you think about it. This automated sequence, when I got this, I used to hustle to sell that. When I put all that on this, that changed everything. That's when I lost my dad in 2009 to acute myeloid leukemia. He was diagnosed and then passed away within 59 days. Diagnosis to death, 59-day period. But I got to be with him, and he was in this place where he was worried about money. And I'd already made it. I'd already been doing good with this stuff, and this was just coming online. So it was crushing. So he and mom are literally, he's in hospice arguing with my mom about money. And I'm like, that's not something you should have to worry about. And so I just walked up to Dad and I busted out my checkbook. I wrote him a check. I said, Dad, Mom's fine. And the look on his face is reason enough why I need to do this stuff. Take care of your family, man. Look, I don't care if you think you're an online marketer or not. You will never have more financial abundance once you automate your business. I don't care what you do. You'll never have more financial abundance. Dad passes away. Mom doesn't want to live in the house anymore. I fly down to her. We spend 3 days. We go all around town looking at all these homes, find a home, what would have been like my dream home in a magazine that could never have been possible for me kind of level. And we walked in. She knew it was it. I knew it was it. I wrote the realtor a check on the spot. We had the keys in an hour and a half. It was done. One check. No mortgage. No bullshit. Check. Done. Give us the house. Mom, you're good to go. That stuff doesn't happen if you're hustling for every dollar. It only happens, you hear about those ideas, it only happens when it's recurring and it's big enough that now is not an issue. And like I said, I'm not bragging about here. I'm here to tell you and encourage you and to challenge you to set this up, even if you don't feel like you are an online marketer, because I didn't feel like that. But learning these tools today is easier than it's ever been. Look, the templates and the tools, I used to do all my HTML coding. I'm a badass at HTML coding. I haven't used it this year. I just did our online launch for the Motivation Manifesto. We sold 66,000 books on my website, not on Amazon, on my site. So I got their names, emails, shipping addresses in 10 days. What would happen if you got 66,000 new names and shipping addresses? You do half of what Dave and Dan Kennedy teach you, and you would destroy it. You know what? Each of those pages, there were only 3 pages. Listen to this. There were 3 pages. 3 web pages. All of them were templates. All 3 of them took on average 6 minutes to create. If you're one of these people, I don't like technology, it's because you haven't looked at it in the last 3 years. That's the only reason. If you have resistance to technology, if you're like, I don't like technology, it's only because you haven't looked at it. Because here's how it works. Now, if you can use Twitter, you can make money online. I'm not saying you make money through Twitter. I'm saying it's that dumb proof. Basically, what you do is you see a template. You go, I want it to look like that. Select. The template comes up. It says, type headline here. You go, ooh. You type in a headline. Upload video here. Upload video. Ooh. Which button do you want it to be? Red, yellow, green, white? Get access now, buy now, register now? This one. Publish. The page is done. You don't have to be a technical person. And what I found all around the world, if you ever come to an Experts Academy, you'll see in our audiences now, 60% of my audience is women. And when we did our market demographics, everyone said, Brendan, women don't want to do online marketing online. They don't like the technology. I'm like, what are you talking about? Now 60% of my audience, next year it's going to be 80%. Are you kidding me? Like, the resistance that people used to have to online is gone once you show them. Once you show them how to set up a page in 6 minutes, look, any stay-at-home mom can do that. Any dude who's never done anything but swept floors can do it. So we got to get over this idea that this is going to be hard. Because what our mind, our psyche does is says, if it's hard, I won't do it. It's the main difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. Unsuccessful people, they get this idea, this dream. They hear something like this, they're like, yeah, I want to do that. But then they say in their mind, well, I don't know how to do that. So they stop. Unsuccessful people say, well, I don't have that. I don't have a list, a website, these things. So they stop. Or they say, well, I'm not like that person. I'm not that person or this person. I'm not like them. So they stop. The critical hallmark difference between unsuccessful people and successful people is they don't stop. The successful people say, you know what? I also don't know how to do this. So my job is to figure it out, to learn, to take the training. I don't know. I don't have a list. So my job is to go build one. Go create it. Borrow it. Leverage it. I'm not like that person. Okay, well, what can I learn from that person and amplify the best within me that's similar to that, but myself, my authenticity, my aliveness, to become my best self, who would deserve that stuff. That's what successful people do. Can I get a yes? That's what we do. So if you don't know how, look, your job here today is not to know the how. My job is to teach you the how. Your job is to ask, do I want that stuff? And if you want to be able to do this, I can show you how. I can show you how better than anyone else in this space, and that's the guarantee. All of my programs have been that way, and that's why I'll show you some numbers in a minute. That's why everything went like this, because I can stand on every stage in the world, and I say this to everybody. I say, when you sign up for my program, if it's not the best training you've ever had in this genre, period, if it's not the best training you even think exists, period. If you think there is a better training after you've gone through mine, then ask for your money back. It's more than satisfaction. Satisfaction, I don't want you to be satisfied. I want you to say, that is the best I've ever seen, period. If it's not the best you've ever seen, then you ask for your money back. And that's how I built my brand. And that is my challenge to each of you too. When you sell those blockbusters, look, Steve Jobs didn't have to stand up there and say, you know, this is pretty good, but I think other people have a better phone. You know, there's other phones like this. No, he created a blockbuster. A what? Blockbuster. You know, it only takes an extra few days or an extra few weeks to create something that's world class versus mediocre. But most people, they're unsuccessful because they get it done, and they think, it's good enough. And they put it out there, which, by the way, is great. I want you to do that too. Do it your best, get it out there, but then keep improving it. I'm telling you, Total Product Blueprint and Experts Academy, they're better than they've ever been, ever, because I get them better. A perfectionist is the greatest lie in the world. If you're like, I'm a perfectionist, Brendan, that's why I haven't done anything. No, you are uncertain and you are scared. And that's why you haven't done it. Don't blame perfection. Because a real perfectionist, if they know what the definition of perfection means, you cannot perfect something until it has been released. Completion is a requirement of perfection. Uh-oh. Tell me, you don't understand, but I'm a perfectionist. No, you're scared and you're uncertain, and that's why you haven't completed it. If you're a perfectionist, you'd complete it, release it, and iterate it and make it better. Yeah? Ever heard this idea called beta? Put it out there, then make it better. That's what the whole world does now. Perfection comes after completion. So complete it and put it out there, and then get better. Make that sucker world class. Look, the iPhone 6 Plus that they just gave me is a whole lot better than the first iPhone they gave me. It's so much better. And that's why that company keeps going, whoop, but it's the same thing. Look at another example in our industry. You all know Jeff Walker? Product Launch Formula, right? One of my best friends in the world, in the industry. He and I exchange $1 million a year together. Literally, we should just not do anything. We should just like stop writing. I send him $1 million, he sends me $1 million every year. It's funny. Well, let me tell you about Jeff. He's been selling PLF for what, 13, 14 launches now? Blockbuster. He created Product Launch Formula. He keeps selling it. You only got to create one good thing, guys. You create that integrated product suite with 3 things to offer, maybe a book. That's why Jeff ended up doing the book. He finally launched the book because he saw the idea of integrated product suite and saw the numbers, changed his mind. Same thing with Tony Robbins right now. Releasing a book, he got it. Needs that product in there. Needs that tier level of low, mid, and high within each product category. So you get those out there. But if you just got one and you set it up like we teach you, like this, bang, game over. And most importantly, now you're there. Now you're there. And once you are there, then 3 billion new people meet you, you will reach more people than you ever imagined. But you don't want to reach more people than you ever imagined until you got something for sale. You all agree with that, right? You know how many Oprah clients I have who are like the most depressed people I ever met? Because they got on Oprah and they didn't have nothing to sell. They had their 15 seconds and they are still broke. And then now they come to me like, I was on Oprah. I'm like, did you make any money? Yeah, no, it's not nice to ask that. You shouldn't do that. But you know, it changes their state a little bit, gets them talking, you know? But you all have this opportunity and it's not going to come back. But if you're there with something to sell, now I'm going to really teach you to make money. I need you to create these things, and that's why I want to give you Total Product Blueprint today for free. It's $2,000. It comes with a $2,000 ticket to Experts Academy. That's $4,000 of value. I'm going to give it to you free, but you have to enroll in something else because this is where I'm going to teach you to take it at a whole other level. If you haven't watched or you're new to my brand, this year I figured out the biggest thing I've ever figured out in my lifetime. I spoke at one event so far this year, and it's very simpler. It's called Circular Viralocity. Viral. It is the modern way of marketing. And without it, you could have everything set up, but you can't get the traffic at it. And that's what people are really struggling with. They don't know how to get traffic. So here's what I'm gonna do for this group. And I've literally offered this one time ever, and it was to my own group and friends at Jeff's event, because most of that room were from Experts Academy, and there were a lot of our students. And Jeff's audience knew me so well that I wanted to do this for them. And I want to do it for you. In December of this year, I'm going to do the 2014 Marketing Roll-Up online. And what that is it's a 4-hour webcast. It's live, so I can take some questions throughout it. But you watch it from your computer or your phone, doesn't matter. And it's recorded. If you can't make the date, don't sweat it. I don't even know the date. I'm pretty sure it's that 3rd Tuesday of December. It's the third Tuesday of December. If you can't make it, don't sweat it. It is recorded, and you will get it as access in your membership site. That webcast was created for my $10,000 clients. And that was all I was going to give them for the whole year. And then everything went like jet fuel this year. And when I say jet fuel, I'm going to show this to you now, but hopefully you know my heart. This is not bragging. It's going to explain a lot about what I mean when I say circular virality. Would you guys put up that slide? I want you to see what this did this year. This year. So if you've never been on my Facebook page, as of this morning, I have 2 million fans on Facebook. Those 2 million fans get me about 13 million post views per week and about 714,000 unique clicks. Now let's stop there for 10 seconds. What if you got 1% of those clicks to your business every week? What if you got 10% of those clicks to your business every week? It would change everything. Trust me, that changed everything. It's the only reason I'm going to give this live webcast, not for 10 grand, but a whole lot cheaper, as I'll tell you in a second. Then, my YouTube, this is what I didn't know would happen when we plugged it into Circular Virality. What this means is last November, I figured out there's a sequence of things that you can do online between the different social media platforms to create this viral effect to get consistent traffic. Not one time because of a post, but a post that recurs in the right places at the right time to the right audiences over and over again to drive the traffic. And it took my YouTube show to the #1 most watched self-help show in the history of YouTube. We have 14 million views on YouTube this year, and we only started in February. In February of this year. And by the way, this is when they say the most viewed, the most direct camera, meaning I'm talking to the camera versus, I mean, there's no like videos of like cats humping cats. You know? Those get a lot of views, and people say, 14 million, that's not. No, this is an adult speaking to adults direct to camera with no editing and fancy stuff. That's why that's a phenomenon, and everything changed for me. You know, when you hit 1 million people on Facebook, do you know what happens? Your name gets added to every single PR company in the world, to their influencer list. Anything I want, I got that. I wouldn't pay for an iPhone. I want to go to a movie premiere, it's an email. I want to meet any person in the world, it's an email. There's a level of influence that will come to you when you are out there that I never knew it, because I never had any fame. I literally never met a famous person until I became that. Like, I didn't even know, I was like, what? It's unbelievable what happens to you and for your life. And I don't care about it for the recognition. What I care about is that's 14 million people who got their lives changed when they watched a simple video from me. I'm in it for the reach more than the revenue. All I ever wanted to make in my entire life was $40,000 a year. That was my goal, because my parents working 2 full-time jobs each never made that. And I'd heard that the average income at the time in America was 40 grand a year. And I was like, people are making $40,000 in a year? That seemed so friggin' rich to me. So look, I don't say any numbers to break. After 40,000, I've been good. I give away most of all of it. I put it back into our brands to perpetuate our message. I'm not the money guy. I've had the same damn suit for 3 years. Someone gave me the shirt. #1 podcast, when we debuted on iTunes, it was the #1 podcast, not in my category, in the world, in all podcasts. We beat This American Life. We beat Radiolab. We beat NPR. Like, unbelievable. And it was like, how the hell? I'm like, the circular virality thing. I've been doing a weekly email to my list since 2006. Got over 2 million email subscribers. 1 million of those came this year. Doubled the list with this one goofy word, phrase, thing. Average post on our blog, I was like, how do you have this much traffic at your blog, and how do you get these many likes? That. It's just a new way of figuring out what to do with your content online and how to put it in basically a circular loop across the social media things that perpetuate each other, and then to do it again about 60 days later, same loop. Then do it again about 60 days later. And by doing that, you're basically taking your best content and you're recycling it in the right places at the right time, and that is what I'm going to teach you on this webcast. Here's what else I'm going to teach you. Thanks for that, guys. I'm done with that. Here's what else I'm going to teach you on this webcast. It's just called the 2014 Marketing Roll-Up. Many of you guys, how many of you sell just traditional products? Like you have a brick and mortar somewhere or you sell a product, okay? How many of you have invented an idea for a product and you want that to crush it? Okay. If you didn't know, and if you're not on my list, you didn't know we did this, we did the most successful Kickstarter in the history of the world this year. The #1 most crowd-funded product in Kickstarter's history. It was called the Coolest Cooler. If you saw that, that was mine. Oh, not mine. My friend invented it. I did all the marketing for it. I'm the marketing guy behind it. I'm going to teach you how to do a Kickstarter campaign. We did $13 million on our Kickstarter campaign, #1 of all time on Kickstarter, as you can see. I did book launches for Arianna Huffington and now Tony Robbins and Jeff Walker. I'm going to teach you how I just did my book launch. 66,000 orders in less than 10 days. I'm going to show you every tool that I use, everything that I learned this year, and this is the only time ever I'm going to teach that stuff on a live virtual thing, period. I have a program coming up called 10X Empire. It's $10,000. It's not right for most people. This webcast is only $2,000. So for $2,000 today, here's what I'm offering you. And you can make 3 payments, by the way. People always ask that. Yes, you can make 3 payments. And yes, there's a guarantee. It doesn't have to be good. It has to be the best in the world for you, period, bar none. Best in the world. And so here's what you're going to get. If you guys would hand out my registration form, you're going to get Total Product Blueprint. That's $2,000, and that's the form that's coming around. You're going to get that free today. You're going to get the 2 tickets that come with Total Product Blueprint to Experts Academy. Those are $2,000. You get that free today. That's $4,000 when you enroll in what will be my live marketing roll-up for 2014. I'm going to teach you every one of the 3 biggest online campaigns of this entire year. We're breaking them down. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. Here's what you should do in 2015. Here's what you should not do in 2015. Here's what I would start with you, and we're going to spend a significant amount of time talking about all elements here that go even beyond, obviously, what we've been able to cover in this short amount of time together, because I had to tell you about myself. That's just going to be hardcore training. And as part of that hardcore training, you get the 12 best tutorials on how to create any product that you'd want. You get to come to Experts Academy. Now, I know you have some Total Product Blueprint members in the room. You can sign up as well, same price point for you, because it's the live webcast you're signing up for, the 2014 Marketing Roll-Up. That marketing training, that webcast is $2,000, so you'd have to sign up for it too. But here's the thing, if you're already a Total Product Blueprint member, you can have anything else you want of my product suite at similar price. So you haven't been to World's Greatest Speaker Training? Boom, free ticket. If you're already a Total Product Blueprint member, but you didn't go to Experts Academy and your ticket's expired, boom, we'll give you another new one. So if you're on TPB, you want to sign up. Here's what I need you guys to do, though. At the top of that form, because if you don't know, I'm in a book launch right now, and I'm hitting like 5 cities in the next 7 days. I mean, it's crazy. So we need to know where your form came from, okay? So all I want you to do at the top of this form is write this code. And this code will get you the live webcast because I'm not offering this live webcast anywhere else. I offered it at Jeff's program because I had a ton of my students there, and I'm offering it here because I frankly want Dan to watch it. I know he won't. But I think this might be the very 4 hours that will change everything you do for 2015, whether you're selling a traditional product and you want to figure out Kickstarter, how to get funding on Kickstarter before you even start, or you're trying to figure out how to do an online launch for any type of product. This is the program that will help you. So here's what you need to write. Just at the top, it's just a code. It's a hashtag, okay? Just write this. GIC, and then this is what you want to write, okay? LW214. Super simple. GKIC. LW stands for live webcast. It's the only way we will know that that's what you signed up for. Live webcast. That's the 4-hour live webcast with us. And again, it's recorded if you can't make that date. Then 2014, just the year, 2014. The program is just $19.97. And again, you can make 3 payments if you want. Not times 3, just 3 payments. So you just select it on the form. But across the top, you have to have this. Otherwise, my team is just going to give you access to Total Product Blueprint, but you won't get the email for the live webcast. Okay? So this has to be at the top. You got it? Okay. Has to be at the top. GKIC, that's where we're at. LW means live webcast, 2014, and that is going to get you all these products. Total Product Blueprint, which is you see in front of you. Experts Academy, that's $4,000 of training, and then a live webcast that other people have paid $10,000 just to watch. It's advanced stuff, but it's stuff everybody in this room can do because you don't need to worry about technology anymore. What we all have to worry about now is strategy and implementation. That's the new world. It used to be, look, I knew coding so I could take over the world. Now, your strategy is this. What do you need to be doing on Facebook? And on YouTube, and on your blog? Do you have a definitive plan for 2015? If you do not, you need to sign up for this today. This will give you your entire marketing plan, at least at the high level, for 2014. That good, okay? 2014. Then, you'll understand, though, I got it. But what about 2015? I'm going to say, look, this was the best of 2014. This is what I'm doing personally in 2015. And all you have to do, trust me, if you've watched anything in the online marketing space this year, I probably in some ways had my hands in it, whether promoting it or being part of it. And that's not for any other reason than I love this stuff. I love teaching you this stuff. You watched my students like Chalene Johnson. Boom, #1 podcast. Boom, New York Times bestseller. Boom, major 3 7-figure online launches out of nowhere. Same with JJ Virgin in the health space, in the diet space with the Virgin Diet. All she did is follow the exact same strategies from Total Product Blueprint. That's all she did. And she'll give the credit to it all day long. All day long. Of the major launches, of the major things we did on Kickstarter, of the major things we did for Ariana Huffington, for Tony, all those same strategies you're going to learn. And now I only have a question. And it's, will you do it? Because you got this little window right now. You've got maybe 18 months to get there. The good news is with everything I'm going to teach you, you're going to at least have a strategy for the first time in a year, right? To know what you're going to do all of 2015 in your marketing, I would say that's worth about $100,000. To me, it's worth about $20 million. It's the same thing I'm doing. But all I need you to do is for you to do it. And if you're like, well, Brendan, I'm not a personality. I'm not a person like that. You need to get over yourself. It has nothing to do with what you look like or sound like. And here's how I know this. All the top 200 YouTubers or so, they're friends. They look completely different. They're from all around the world. Some are young, some are old. Some talk about science, some talk about makeup. I mean, it has nothing to do with what you look like or sound like. If that's your barrier, it's not. The barrier is you haven't decided to serve yet. Because once you decide to serve, you stop worrying about this. You don't care anymore. Once you decide to serve, you say, how many people can I reach with what I know? How many people can I deliver value to? And that becomes your mission. That becomes what you attach to. That's what you commit to. That's what you buy. That's what you train in. I'm a warrior in this stuff. I train and I train. All these marketing strategies, I had to learn them. My gift is I know how to wrap them up for you and say, guys, gals, don't do these things anymore. Just stop. They're a waste of your time. They're taking time, money, effort, and energy and resources away from you and your family. Do these things because we've already proven it. We haven't just proven it with myself. Look, you've got to understand, we've got tens of thousands of Experts Academy graduates all around the world. Same with Total Product Blueprint. These are the people, like last year, you open up the New York Times, some 40% of all the nonfiction bestsellers were graduates of Experts Academy and Total Product Blueprint. It's not an accident. There's systems. There's strategies. The only thing I can't give you is your heart for this stuff. You got to love it. You got to be passionate about it. You got to know it. The strategy, the tools, that's easy. What to say in the videos? That's easy. It's just a matter of will you do it? Will you fire up the laptop? Will you look at it and say, I'm going to reach some people this year. This is my breakthrough year. And I just argue that 2015 has to be the breakthrough year for all of us. If we're ever going to do it, it's got to be the year. Because this year, another 1 million new people come online every single week. They ought to be finding you. They ought to find you. As another 3 billion come on over the course of the next 3 or conservatively 5 years, they ought to find you. So I'm just going to say, guys, this is where you need to be. This is what you should have. Total Product Blueprint starts immediately. When you guys sign up, usually within 2 or 3 days, they get us all the forms. My team will get you your access, and you can go right now into Total Product Blueprint. And anything, if you're in the mode of launching something, stop until you watch the online course or the online launch sequence in Total Product Blueprint. Total Product Blueprint teaches you, again, here's the 12 different products and programs you can create. Here's how to create them and how specifically to market them based on proven outlines. Because again, marketing a DVD is way different than marketing an online course or a live event or a coaching program. It's very different. The marketing is just different for all of them. So I show you, here's how I would structure the product. Here's how I'd structure the sales message. And here's the page, how I would structure the page so you can market it. We show you also in Total Product Blueprint how to integrate that with Infusionsoft or OptimizePress or Kajabi. All you have to do is hit play, watch it, pause, build it. That's your job. You don't know how to, I'm telling you one more time, you don't have to know how to do this. That's my job. I'm the trainer. I will teach you how to do this. Your job is to believe in yourself. Your job is to do the work. I can't give that to you and I can't do that for you. But I think you will find it a pretty motivating program in that sense of it'll be so clear you go, that's all I had to do? Because look, the online marketing world can be a hot mess sometimes, and I know you guys have already experienced it. So many different advices, so many different tools, it can be kind of ugly. But if you guys will get committed to this year, it'll be your breakthrough year. This will be the time that you finally get in the right place, well positioned for the future, and you know exactly what to do in 2015. So here's how this works. I'm about to break. When I break, you have 20 minutes as a break for this program till it begins again. You have to sign in that form, and it has to look like this, GKICLW 2014, and you'll get access to that live webcast with me in December. Again, we'll record it for you. But the nice thing is you don't have to travel. Total Product Blueprint's all online. This is all online. If you want to come to Experts Academy, you get 2 of those next year. We do it twice a year in spring and the fall. You can come to any of them that you want. How cool is that? When you sign up during this break, one extra thing. Today, you'll also have another break at 5:30, right? Somewhere around that 5:30-ish range. You'll break right before the dinner break. So that last session right before dinner break. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be out in the hallway at that time. And all you have to do is you walk up with that pink sheet, and we'll get a picture together. I love meeting my students, especially when I'm on the road. It kind of keeps me alive a little bit. So all you have to do is sign up today. We'll get a picture right at the dinner break outside the main hallway. I'll have a staff member. They're just going to verify your pink sheet. And then, boom, I'd like to meet you. We'll get a picture. You guys can go off to dinner. Have a great time. Sound cool? All right. It's been an honor being here with you guys. Sign up for this program during this break. We'll see you out there at 5:30. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Hey everyone. All right, so apologies if I look at the phone, I got to keep track of time. They're kind of sticklers around here about that. So yeah. All right, so there's a couple breakout sessions, so I just want to make sure everyone's in the right place here and talk to you about what we're going to learn. Okay, so if you're basically interested in keeping clients, if you're interested in having them stay with you longer, retention. I've always been a big, huge retention guy. I hate getting clients and losing them. It sucks. It's so hard to get them, right? So you're in the right place. If you want to get more referrals, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you techniques that I use to get referrals and techniques our clients use to get referrals. If you agree that your existing clients, customers, patients are your business most valuable asset, again, you're in the right place here. and if you currently have a business that's up and running. If you're new, to be honest with you, this probably isn't the best presentation. You got to have a client list, you got to have people to mail to. If you're brand new, this probably isn't the best spot for you to be in. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about is B2B and B2C customer newsletters, not paid newsletter subscriptions. So if you thought this was going to be about how to do a GKIC style newsletter, this isn't, again, not the right place for you here. So here's what we are going to cover, though. We're going to cover the 5 biggest mistakes people make with their newsletter. All right? We're going to go over the secret elements that make newsletters the ultimate retention tool, how to use newsletters to acquire new customers, how to use newsletters to increase customer retention and sell more to existing customers. Okay, so that's what we're going to cover. I'm going to show you how to do that. We send out millions of newsletters a year, so we've kind of perfected a lot of these techniques. We know what works, and we have a great testing ground. We get to see what works, and so I'm going to go over that with you. I'm even going to eventually, we'll go through, and if it's time permitting, we'll draw it out how we kind of design out a newsletter for a new customer and the steps we take and all the great elements that go in it. So here's the thing. If you're going to implement, and if you will implement newsletters, now newsletters are not an overnight success. You're not going to grab a newsletter, send it out, and rake in $1 million. That's just not how they work, okay? But you can increase the lifetime value of every single customer that you have. You can increase the number of referrals that you get each year and get customers to purchase more often. This is a big one. You've heard Dan talk about this. We're all missing the boat. Every single one of us get our customers to buy more of what we sell, buy different things that we sell. It's amazing how many items that you sell, and it's everyday common stuff to you, but your customers don't even realize that it's an option, and they're going somewhere else. And ultimately, it will increase the effectiveness of all your marketing. It's an extra touch. So here's the catch. With newsletters, you've got to go for 6 months. That's the minimum. You got to send out every single month for 6 months. If you do it any less than that, if you do it quarterly, if you do it every other month, to be honest, it's just not going to work. You're going to come back and say, hey, Sean, this newsletter thing, it didn't work out. I'm going to say, well, what'd you do? And you're like, well, I sent out twice, and it sucked. And I'm going to say, yeah, of course it did. So that's the catch. So look, you could continue to do nothing, always an option, right? We all come in, we sit, we hear these great ideas, and then sometimes what do? We don't do anything with them, right? And you absolutely can, but you're putting your herd at risk. So we work a lot in the dental space, and it's about 1/3 of our total clients are dentists. And I saw an interesting fact that actually a copywriter, he was doing some copy for us, and it was that there are 18 dentists for every Starbucks. They're like literally on every corner, right? So, but your competitors, they're all trying to get your customers. They all want them. And so you're by not building relationships with your customers, you're putting your herd at risk. You're leaving referrals and business on the table, and by doing nothing, of course, you're going to keep getting what you've always gotten. So I want to talk about my first experience with a newsletter because it's informative. I was actually sold a franchise with a newsletter. And it really just goes to show you that you can sell almost anything with a newsletter. And so my very first experience with a newsletter, so I know this is going to be hard for everyone to believe, but when I was younger, I was kind of a nerd. And I would actually get these franchise disclosure documents. They were called UFOCs back in the day, but now they're franchise disclosure documents, as if you were going to buy a franchise. I would get them, and I would enjoy reading these legal documents. I know. So one day, when I decided I wanted to get a new business, I started looking around. I started calling. Did anyone ever remember Small Business Opportunity magazine? That might even still be out there. So I love that magazine. I'd read that magazine, Entrepreneur Inc., and I would go and I'd try to find businesses. And I'd say, well, let me get their information. And I'd read it over, and I'd see what their business model was like. And so I would do that, and I was seriously ready to buy another business. I was selling one and ready to start a new chapter in my life. And this company, Dry Cleaning to Your Door, caught my eye. And it was a pickup and delivery dry cleaning franchise. So, nothing super exciting, but I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. And but it was one of literally many dozens of companies I ordered information from. But it was the only one who kept communicating with me after about 6 weeks. The other 36 or so stopped calling, stopped writing, didn't even send me an email. This lady actually sent me a newsletter every single month. And I'd get this newsletter in, and I would just devour it. It was awesome. It had like a top 10 list of franchisees, so I could see month over month who was moving. Oh man, that guy Bud in Kentucky, man, he's number 4 now. He must be killing. I wonder what he's doing. On the front page, it might have a new franchise story, and they'd be talking about this new franchise and how excited they were to get started, or to have an existing franchisee, and they'd be talking about how great they're doing and how they love the business. And it was like an 8-page newsletter, and I mean, it was just, I couldn't wait to get this thing in the mail. I would make my girlfriend, now wife, but my girlfriend at the time, read it, and she was like, holy crap, why is this guy making me read this stuff? But I wanted to talk to her about it, right? You know, and so I made her read it, and then we'd talk about it, and it was great. And so what happened was I was going through and started hearing about their upcoming convention. See, I wasn't ready to buy yet. I had 2 businesses. They were actually hot dog stands in front of Lowe's home improvement stores. So I was like 18, no, I was maybe 19 years old, something like that, 20 years old. And I'd sold one of them, and I still owned one of them. And I was trying to get out of that one before I could afford to buy the other franchise. But their annual convention was coming up. And she was talking about this annual convention months before it came about. And so anyhow, she would talk about how much fun it was going to be, and it was going to be in Colorado, and we were going to go whitewater rafting, and I'd never been whitewater rafting, and we were going to learn so much, and so I really wanted to buy this thing. And even though I hadn't sold the business, I scrounged up the $20,000 that I needed, went and got a loan for a van, and I bought the franchise. I went to this convention in June, and actually it was great. So bought it in April, went to the convention in June, opened in August. And it was all sold via a franchise or via a newsletter. And that was a big purchase as a young guy. Luckily, good news was back then credit was cheap and easy to get, even for a 20-year-old guy. They were just throwing money at you back then, right? So, all right. Here's the thing. We've all heard Dan say this. People are ready to buy when they're ready to buy. You know, you, of course, can speed that process up, as Dan teaches. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're not going to, if they're not ready to go, they're not buying from you. That's it. But what happens is just because a guy like me is doing research and I'm doing it in November, or maybe I'm waiting to sell a business before I'm ready to buy, that doesn't mean I'm not interested because I haven't contacted you in 4 weeks or 6 weeks. It just means I'm not ready right now. So the problem is that when I contact you and I get information from you, we're all busy. Do you remember every company you called last week, last month? Oh, of course not. So you have to stay in contact with them. You got to stay in communication, because it is not their job, and if you've been around long enough, you've heard this saying, but it is not their job to remember who you are, what you sell, and that you're still in business. It is your job to remind them. And we don't have a good mechanism. Most of us, our reminders today is, let's send them an email, and then hopefully we can sell them something. You know, that's the reminder. So we were required to create a monthly newsletter as part of the franchise once I bought. So I bought this franchise, and I had to create a newsletter. And now I'm in the dry clean business. What kind of newsletter would I write? What would I write about? Well, of course, I'd write about dry cleaning, right? I mean, duh. I created literally the world's most boring newsletter, okay? It was awful. I mean, let me tell you, I had articles in there, and I was digging around trying to find one. I've got one in my book, and I couldn't find it. But I literally would write an article on what an invisible stain is. Does anyone know what an invisible stain is? No? No? Okay. I could bore you and tell you, but, we are limited on time, so I'll skip the story. But, I would talk about getting out grass stains. Well, holy crap, they're sending it to me to dry clean. They don't want to talk about getting out grass stains. They don't want to know how to do that, right? So the problem was that I mailed this newsletter for 2 years. I mean, it was awful. I mean, a different one each month, of course. Mailed it for 2 years. I would even go to the industry publication. We were allowed to reprint articles, and I'd pull articles from there and put it in my newsletter. And I actually, I do believe there are a few people that still keep those newsletters at their nightstand in case they're having insomnia, a decade later. They're awful. And if you want to see an example of the world's worst newsletter, there's one in my book. Go downstairs. We probably have some. They'll give you one, and you can see it. But one day I'm reading to be honest, I was like PO'd. I had to create this newsletter every single month. I didn't, it was literally in my contract. I was required to. I had to send a copy into corporate. I was like, man, how can I get around this? On a side note, her biggest mistake was she did a wonderful newsletter. She should have created the newsletter and sent it to us and just let us put our own name on it. That's exactly what she should have done. But that's not what she did. That's not what this franchisor did. So one day I'm reading an article, and it's a GKSC article. I've been around here for a long time. And I believe it was Bill Glazer actually, but after reading the GKIC article in the Gold newsletter, it finally dawned on me that it didn't work because it was just absolutely boring. It was the worst newsletter. And that's actually sort of rule number one in newsletters, okay? So yeah, I'm supposed to show you a copy. I couldn't find one. Newsletter rule publishing number one, no one wants to read a boring newsletter, okay? When you're a dentist, we'll pick on dentists for a little while, and you're talking about gum disease, with all due respect to the dentists, they don't care. They want you to come in, they want you to drill their teeth and fix it. If they wanted to be a dentist, they would have been a dentist and learned about gum disease, okay? They want to be entertained. We all want to be entertained, right? So I completely revamped the newsletter, and it absolutely changed the response I was receiving, okay? Within 6 months, I was finally seeing the benefits of sending a newsletter. So let me go over them. I was getting positive feedback. The very first one that I changed, I got a note from a lady. And I didn't usually run in the van and do the pickups and deliveries myself, but I don't know, someone was sick or whatever the reason was, and I'm out there doing the pickups, and I grab this bag, and there's a note stuck in it, which usually means that there was a problem or special instructions, right? I pull it out, and it's this note telling me how much she loved reading the newsletter. 2 years I'd never gotten a note before, and I was so happy. You have no idea. I called my girlfriend at the time, but now my wife, and so we did see an increase in referrals, increase in sales, and then again, customers were talking to me about the topics I was publishing. I remember we were going to Disney World, and I didn't see the customers much, but they would call in, and I'd talk to them, and I had like a 20-minute conversation with a dude about taking our kids to Disney World, and he had just went, and I had just gotten back, and it was crazy. I mean, I didn't talk to our customers for 20 minutes. That's like insanity. Who wants to talk to their dry cleaner for 20 minutes? Anyone? No one? Come on. Okay. So even with all the positive feedback, I had a hard time. Has anyone here tried to publish their own newsletter? Okay, so that's a pretty good chunk of the room, all right? Here's the problem. It took forever to create. I spent 12 to 16 hours a month creating newsletters, right? So you had to write all the articles. I should have put this all in one slide, right? I have to hit this button a lot. But you got to write all the articles. You have to have all the articles edited, find pictures, do all the graphic design. You've got to clean my list. This is one, just on a side note, that people miss all the time, cleaning of the list. You're sending out pieces to your list, and they don't live there anymore, or they've died, or whatever the case may be. So, or they just weren't good customers in the first place. But print the newsletter, have it folded, tab the newsletter, buy postage, put stamps on it, and then go to the post office. It took forever, okay? So it's hard to do everything yourself. Rule number two, though, with newsletters, and this is another mistake that I made, is it wasn't monthly. So if you don't mail monthly, we talked about this briefly, but if you don't mail monthly, you become very sporadic. And what happens is, in the mind of your customers, they don't actually realize that it's a publication. They think it's just some episodic piece that you're sending out. Now, I don't know about you, but the last thing I want my clients and customers to think about me is that I am, kind of not reliable. And when you don't send monthly, you don't see that. When you don't send monthly, you don't get the side benefits. People are going to think about you. When they interact with you, there's a couple of studies on this, but when they interact with you, you've got top-of-mind awareness for 3 days. That's it, 3 days, okay? And once you lose top-of-mind awareness, the chances of referrals basically drop nearly to zero. So when you send them the newsletter and they read it and they interact with it, and studies have shown that it'll actually linger for up to 4 months. And I know this. Back when I used to go and meet with clients in their offices and things like that, I'd go into the office and my newsletters would be sitting around, or even sometimes like thank you cards. Send someone a thank you card and it's like lingering on their desk for 4 months, which is kind of weird. But so if I fast forward a little bit to 2010, I knew I was getting out of the dry cleaning business. It was always just a kind of a means to the end. And I was getting out of the dry cleaning business, and I started looking for a new company. And that's where the Newsletter Pro was mainly born. And I'll give you more details, a little bit more on this tomorrow when I'm presented for that Market of the Year award. But I had a direct mail company. Thank you. Yeah, I had a direct mail company that, among other things, published newsletters. So today, though, we've grown. Since 2011, I started in January 2011, we've grown, and I have 29 employees, and we mail millions of newsletters a year for our clients. There's many of our employees, mostly women. There's like 3 guys in the whole office, so, but So let me talk to you about retention. So this is some stuff you'll want to just kind of keep in mind. This is research that we found. So 5% increase in customer retention can increase profits 25% to 125%. Harvard Business Review, Bain & Company, if you guys are familiar with any of those research industries or publications. Huge impact on your business and your overall profits, and people are missing out. They're missing out. The probability of selling to an existing customer is 60 to 70%, and to a new customer, it's 5 to 20%. So we all hear this. This is like Kennedy 101, right? You know, it's so much easier to sell to someone who has already done business with you. If you guys have been watching around the internet space, they're talking about tripwires. You know, it's the easiest time, hardest time to make the first sale in the world, the easiest time to make the second sale in the world. Okay? So companies that prioritize customer experience generate 60% higher profits than their competitors. This is actually out of a book, The Leading on the Edge of Chaos. It's a great book. It's out of print. You can still pick one up on Amazon, though, for 25 or 30 bucks used. But it's a very good book if you're interested in retention and just kind of making more money. 2% decrease or 2% increase in customer retention has the same effects of decreasing costs by 10%. All right, now here's the big one. Your existing customers on average spend 214% more than the new customer is going to, okay? And that was obviously spread out across a bunch of industries, right? So, but when they averaged it all together, that's what they got, 214% more. And I can tell you in my businesses, that's absolutely true. You know, when someone's trying you out, have you ever gotten a customer and they use you a couple of times and then they disappear? They never come back? I mean, isn't that like the worst? You know, you've spent all that time and money to get them and they're gone. But when you actually get them and you keep them, it's so much easier. We're all creatures of habit. We'd rather just do business with the people we know and the people we like. And that's why they end up spending more, because they trust you. All right, so here's the thing. You know, I mean, this is the big what if question. What would your business look like, right? Whoops, went a little too far there. So how would it change your business? And that's what we're going to go over, okay? So here are the 5 big mistakes that people make with newsletters. And you can remember it by the acronym Don't Be Beige. Okay, so first, don't be boring. Mistake number 1. As you might imagine, I get to see a lot of newsletters. People just like randomly add me to their newsletter list, both email and print. And so I get these newsletters in, and sometimes it's brutal. It hurts on the inside. So don't be boring. Don't be electronic. So there's this big debate, email versus print, okay? I'm here to let you know right now, the email ones don't work. Average time spent reading an email is 6 seconds. That's what you get, 6 seconds on average. They're too busy. They can go off to Facebook. They can go off to the ads on Google. They can search something else. You know, someone instant messages them, you know, Twitters them or whatever, right? Okay, don't be irregular. Don't be generic. So look, for some businesses, you know, your industry newsletter works. It's kind of more of a generic newsletter. But as you're going to see here, when you're personal, it changes the relationship. When you talk about stuff that's going on in your life, and I know there's a couple people here who think no one wants to know what's going on in my life. No one wants to read about that, and I promise you we'll go over it. And don't be like everyone else. So my business philosophy has always been to look at what my competitors are doing and then do the opposite. So I've always found that they're typically incorrect. And so if everyone in your industry is not doing a newsletter, or they're being generic when they're doing it, or they're sending it out irregularly, try it this way. I promise you'll get better results. So let's talk about increasing readership, okay, and taking advantage of kind of the prime real estate. So on a newsletter, we'll use the whiteboard a little earlier. So we didn't have an Elmo, so we're going to whiteboards. But we'll still get the point across, okay? So when you've got your first page of a newsletter here, so this is kind of your front page, your main article here, if you will continue that article on the inside, so it just says right here, it says continue on page 3, let's say, okay, you will increase readership. People don't like to stop in the middle of what they're reading and just end a paragraph in the middle of a sentence. So where I like to put it would be actually at the top of page 3. Okay, so it moves them past page 2 and then they go back. We find that will increase readership drastically on the newsletter. Okay, write articles for the type of content. You want to write articles that are going to improve your customers' lives. So let's use, we'll continue to stick with dentists as an example, okay? So dentists, the average dentist, is targeting women who are 35 to 55 years old with kids in the house. So an article you might use that would improve her life would be 7 tips for keeping your kids safe on Facebook. It could be how to train for a marathon, and then give her 4 marathons that are coming up in the next 5 months for her to go out and train on, okay? So improve their lives. I mean, if you help them get what they want, they will give you what you want, okay? Entertain them. So who makes more? Teachers or entertainers? Yeah, absolutely. Keep it the same. Okay, so this is a huge mistake I see people make all the time. So today, on the front page, they put that personal article about their trip to Disney World, right? Okay. And next month, instead of it being about them, they put this boring legal article on the front page. Or on the inside page, they have a dumb criminal article, which is a wildly popular article. I think us as Americans can all get behind like stupid criminals and laughing at them. Like it's one group that no one gets offended about when you make fun of them. They put that in their newsletter. It's always at the bottom of page 2. Except this month. They decided to put the referral program there. And they moved it and they took it out completely. So don't change it. It needs to stay the same. Okay, if they're looking forward to reading that article in your newsletter, they need to be able to go and find it. You might get away with changing it 1 month and then changing it back, but after 2 months, all of a sudden, they might not be interested in reading anymore, and you've lost them, and readership's everything. Okay, so let's talk about increasing sales. When you put the content is what's going to get you referrals, okay? The top of mind awareness and then the content. So when you put content in that's going to help the person that you're actually, your average client, that's when you get the pass around value, okay? Which is one of the ways that you're going to get referrals. So if my wife gets a newsletter and it has that 7 tips for keeping kids safe in Facebook, or it has the article in there about training for a marathon, and her friend across the street, Lori, hey, we know Lori's wants to do a marathon. She's been talking about it. She's seen that my wife runs marathons. Maybe she wants to do one too. When Mariah gets that and reads it, says, hey, this is a great article, and walks it over and hands it over to Lori. You're not a very good looking Lori, but hands it over to Lori and she takes it. That's a referral. She's just referred your company. Now it might be a little bit of an implied referral. It's not directly like, hey, you should go and do business with this guy. But when they get it and you have that top of mind awareness, they're also have then the ability they're thinking about you. So when someone says something in a conversation, they have the opportunity to refer you, okay? So stealth offers. Let's talk about what a stealth offer is. So a stealth offer is where you have a product or you have a service and you tell a story to sell that service, and then at the very end say, hey, by the way, if you want more information, go to this website, give us a call. It's a great way to advertise in the newsletter, but to come across it in a story format instead of in just this blatant pitch like, hey, buy my crap, I mean, it's there's sometimes time for that, but coming up with the stealth offer ends up being a little bit more effective, and it doesn't hurt the newsletter. Okay, freestanding inserts, FSIs, that stands for freestanding inserts. So a freestanding insert is just exactly what it sounds. It's an insert stuck into the middle of the newsletter. Now that is, when you want to make a blatant pitch, that's the best place to do it. Okay, you don't hurt the newsletter, you don't hurt the integrity of the newsletter by making the pitch via freestanding insert. You can do it two-sided, and we've all seen GKIC do this, right? We've all gotten the newsletter from GKIC, and they've got the inserts in the back promoting Super Conference or Info Summit or some other cool event or product, okay? Okay, mailing cold newsletters. Anyone here mailed cold newsletters before, like to people who are not customers? All right, cool, a couple people. So let me tell you what we've done. We have determined that if you are marketing, so if you're, and I'm going to go back to dentists because we do mail a lot of cold newsletters to dentists. So if you're marketing as a dentist, then you are an ideal candidate for our services. We want you. So we've gone through and we've actually scraped together our own list. It is tedious. It takes a long time. We have someone in the office do it. They go and we get together these dentists who are marketing. Now, I'll tell you a unique way that we've done it, okay? So one of the ways that we've done it is we told all of our employees, and I told all of our friends and family, go on Facebook and ask your friends and family to take a picture the next time they get an ad in the mail for a dentist. Take a picture and email it to you, okay? And keep reminding them. And for everyone you give me, so this is to my employees, I'll give you $10. I don't care what you do with it. You can go Pay your friend and family member who gave it to you. You can go have a beer that night, whatever you want to do, okay? But I'll give you $10. So we found other places. If you go and search and, hey, I wonder who's advertising on AdWords in Dallas, Texas, right? We can go figure out who's advertising. So we know that that they're interested. They're interested in growing their practice. So we can scrape together those leads, and then we cold mail out newsletters to them. And I can tell you that that's resulted in thousands of extra dollars a month in sales to us. Again, I'm going to show that slide at the Marketer of the Year thing, but you can scrape together a list, you can buy a list. There's lots of ways to get a cold list and mail it. A great way when you're mailing it is then to include an FSI. So mail it a month, maybe 2 months without an FSI, and then put an FSI in there and sell your wares. And you'll find that you get a very good response doing that. And the longer you do it, the more response. We get business every single month. Yes, we're mailing cold. Now, eventually we drop you off, right? I mean, if it's been, I think we're keeping you on for a year is what we're doing. And depending on your business will depend on how long you should keep them on for. But yeah, we are mailing them every single month. After the first, definitely by the fourth month, there's an FSI in every single newsletter. So we might give them a few months where we're kind of priming them, but then we're making offers every single month. Consistency, we've gone over. Let's go backwards here. All right, so newsletter layout and design. Let's talk about this. This is where the whiteboard is going to come in. See how much time I've got here. All right, so for newsletter layout and design. Most people in this room are probably going to go with a 4-page newsletter. Of our clients, of all the newsletters that we mail out, I would say about 80% of them are 4-page newsletters, and the vast majority of the rest of that is an 8-page newsletter. So if you're sending B2C, you can almost always do a 4-page newsletter. If you're doing B2B, there are some times where it makes a lot of sense to do an 8-page newsletter. And again, no hard, fast rule. So Iron Tribe Fitness, everyone's probably heard of them that's sitting in this room, I'm guessing. They send an 8-page newsletter, but their average ticket's very high. It's $300. They're looking for longevity. Spending an extra 50 cents to send them an 8-page newsletter is well worth the $6 a year investment for them, okay? But what we're going to talk about here is we're going to talk about the 4-page newsletter, because that's what the average person is going to do. So on your first page, pretty much everyone's going to have a header up here. And I'll move so you guys can see over there too. Okay? You're going to have a header. You're all going to have some kind of footer, even if it's not a line like that, even if it's just your website address, your phone number, whatever the case may be, okay? So when you're mailing the newsletter, and you're mailing it as a self-mailer, does everyone know what a self-mailer is? We've all seen that. So it's just where it's folded over. It's not in an envelope. It's got tabs up top, okay? And normally there'd be an address section here. So when you're mailing it as a self-mailer, this is your second most read section right here is your front page. This here should almost always be your personal article. This should be your story about you, what you did last month, last week, what you have coming up. If you're selling franchise and you got a convention coming up, like 6 months before the convention, this should be pretty much about that all the time. How much fun you're gonna have, how great it is, right? If you have, if you've gone on a trip and a vacation, and now I know some of you right now are sitting here thinking, no one cares. Anyone thinking that? No one cares what you've done recently? And so if you believe that, I'm going to need you to, after that we're done, describe and make me understand Facebook, okay? They all care. Everyone thinks everyone else's life is more interesting than their own. Everyone wants to live vicariously. Reality TV, the Kardashians, anyone? I mean, they do care, and this is where you're going to build connection. When you build a connection, I guess I'm just gonna pick on you. You're sitting here in the front, right? So if we're really good friends and we hang out, and he needs a newsletter, is he calling the other guy? If he knows all sorts of stuff, even if we don't really personally know each other, but he knows a ton of stuff about me. Maybe he knows that I've got 5 kids. Maybe he knows on the vacation I went on recently. Maybe he knows that, whatever, I love business. I've got 29 employees. Whatever it is that he knows about me, when he starts to know a bunch of stuff about me, who do we know that stuff about? We know that stuff about our friends. And so even if I don't personally have a connection, he might have a connection with me. And we all want to do business with people we know and like, people we trust. We want to do business with people we feel comfortable with, people who we have an affinity with. So, and we all have an affinity here, like GKIC, right? Would you rather do business with a GKIC person or a person who's not GKIC when you're trying to do marketing? I mean, isn't it so hard to explain to them like what you're trying to do? And you got a graphic designer who's never seen GKIC stuff, and they're like, no, this should be like total cool, graphics everywhere. What are you talking about? No one's going to read a 4-page sales letter. You're out of your mind. It should be 140 characters, no more. Okay, we all know that's not true, but when you're doing business with these people who don't understand us, it makes it much more difficult, okay? So this is where you're going to put your personal information, your personal article, maybe a picture here, pictures of your family. I had a phone call with a guy, so really quick side story, okay? I had a kid at 16 years old, so pretty early, okay? And actually he's here, my son's here, and he's almost 18 now. And I got a guy call me up, and he was 26 years old, and he had read my book, and he tells me, he's like, man, I really feel connected with you. I mean, you had a kid young. I'm getting ready to have my first kid young. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, 16, 26. I mean, we're talking really different. But that's what he connected with me on, and he felt that he was having a kid super young. And that's pretty young, but it's surely not 16 years old. And so you never know what they're going to pick up and what they're going to connect on. And it doesn't matter what the reason they have a relationship and they like you. I mean, it's at the end of the day, if you're a good fit for them and they're a good fit for you, that's really what makes the difference, okay? So that's what you're going to do typically on a first page. Now, so I'm going to get, who's B2B in here? Who sells B2B? Okay. So before I go on, the question I always get is, but Sean, I sell business to business. All right, but it's the same thing. I mean, businesses don't buy anything from you. People buy from you. So it's the same thing. If you read my newsletter, do you guys, how many people get my newsletter in here? It's a pretty good amount. Okay, good. We'll have to get the rest of you on it. But if you read my newsletter, I'd say at least half of the time, the article in here is something to do with my kids that then I tie back around into a business lesson. All right, and that's how I personally do the B2B. So it's an article that, hey, my son Tyler, he's 8 years old and he wants to start his first business because he wants to be like dad. And so we went around and got him a candy machine and we got it put into Merry Maids and he's so excited to go collect the quarters and he had just this confidence to go up and just ask them to put it in there, right? And of course they said yes and he was excited and didn't realize dad had called ahead of time and arranged the whole thing, right? But and I tell you that story, and people, they connect to it, and I give a business lesson, saying, at the end. So that's how you can do personal, but still B2B if you want to keep it pretty professional, and I know some people are going to want to. Okay, so this is page 1, right? We're going to keep the personal stuff or business with a personal lesson. Page 2. Okay, this is where you're going to want your featured article. And it doesn't matter, guys. You want to put it newspaper column-wise. You want to put it like down here on the side. That's fine. Typically, we usually go, we usually do something more like this, right? And put our featured article, okay? So this would be an article that's going to improve their lives. And we talked about those types of articles. Any questions? I mean, does everyone understand what I mean when I'm talking about helping them improve their lives? We're good on that? Okay. So down here, this could be a great spot for your referral program. This could be a great spot for fun or funny. Again, Dumb Criminals, one of our most popular articles. It's so easy to research a dumb criminal article or dumb criminal story and just rewrite it. It takes no time at all. But people love it. We get a lot of comments. You can do those, if you want to put something funny in there, you can do those, they're called memes, Everyone's seen them. They're like pictures with little captions. I didn't know that they actually officially had a name until a few months ago, but I guess they do. And so that's fun, funny, interesting. A great one that we're doing right now for a lot of our clients that people are loving is we are researching a fun family activity or activity that's happening within a day's drive. We're researching that, and then we're writing about that for that local area. So I live in Boise, Idaho. If someone was doing a newsletter in Boise, we'd research. Recently, we just had a big skyscraper open up in Boise. And for those of you who live like in a big area, that's not a big deal. But in Boise, Idaho, I mean, they shut down Main Street literally to throw a big party because there's a skyscraper opening up. And they brought out the Goo Goo Dolls, if anyone knows who they are, and it was a bunch of other bands, and they literally threw a party all day on a Saturday, closed Main Street. And which there's only like 6 cars that are going to go through there anyways in a day, so it doesn't matter. But they, this would be something where we would have researched that ahead of time and then wrote an article about that and said, hey, you should really take your family out. That's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so that's a great article. The feedback we're getting, we've only probably been doing that article for our clients for 9 or 10 months now. And the feedback we're getting from our clients who are getting it from their clients or patients or customers is that they love it. Okay. So page 3 is going to be actually your least read page. So that's probably, if you really want that referral program to hit, that's probably not the best spot to put it. I'm not saying that people don't read page 3, don't get me wrong, but as far as the order goes of what people read, it's page 3 is the least read page in a 4-page newsletter. So again, sometimes this is where people put the fun and funny, because they know it's the least read page, but that's also some of the most read content, so it gets them to read the whole thing. Page 3, though, remember, this is where you want to continue from page 1. You want to put it at the top of page 3 here. Okay, the reason you're going to do that is that then they have to open it up. So when they open up the newsletter, to finish reading it up here in the corner, and they say, oh, hey, I want to read this article about how to run a 5K. And they continue reading. So, and the reason you don't put it on page 2 is we want them to actually, because how do we read, right? We read left to right. So we want them to kind of look at everything that's on page 2, but go to page 3 to finish reading that last paragraph. So finally, can you guys see this over here in the corner? So we're going to come to page 4. This first half, this is your address section here, okay? So, I mean, this is where you're going to put their name, their address, your postage, that kind of thing. One very important step that we see people miss sometimes is you need to put an inside this issue right here. And this is where you're going to put your headlines. I don't know, shark attack at our office, or I don't know, whatever your headline's going to be, right? So you're going to put that here. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what the headline is over here on page 1, as long as you put after it page 1 so they know where to go. Don't you hate like getting the magazines and they have all those great headlines? You're like, oh man, I totally want to see what's going on with the Kardashians and Kim's new outfit, and you can't find it in the magazine because they don't put a page number there, and there's nothing in the table of contents on where it's at. I mean, am I the only Kardashian fan? Is that? No? Oh man, I'm so embarrassed now. So inside the issue here, okay, now your very most read section of the newsletter is right here. It's the bottom of the 4th page. And the reason is because when you send it as a self-mailer, what can they see, right? They can see the address section, and they can read the headlines, and then if they get it, depending on how the post office puts it in, they're going to put it in this back newsletter. So you want this headline right here to be killer, and you want this article to be good. And you can actually, a great tactic is to continue that article inside the newsletter as well, too. This is where fun, funny, interesting, entertaining really comes in handy. A lot of people make the mistake of putting coupons back here. They want to put some kind of ad back here, do our referral contest. But then people say, oh, junk mail. They're not interested in it anymore. And they don't open it and they don't read it. And it's no good. It's no good to you if they don't open and read it. I always say that if you're going to do it, and if you're going to print a newsletter and they're not going to open and read it, and because you're going to make it boring or you're going to do weird stuff with it, it is infinitely more fun to take half the money, light it on fire, and take the other half of the money and go out and have a good time. Okay? Just don't do it. and lighting money on fires is a little sad. So, okay, let me stop here. Are there any questions real quick? I got a couple.
In my industry, which will stay unnamed for now,
Okay.
I was informed that in my newsletter, which I was not allowed to write,
Yes.
I had to use content that was made by someone over here, and I could use nothing but that content. So there was no personality in it, no family, no human interest. It was just 4 to 6 articles that were boring as hell.
Sure.
And you got to come to the decision, why am I doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so in your industry, when you're giving financial advice, there is regulations, okay? But typically speaking, and we do a lot of financial newsletters, so maybe these guys are breaking the law, but I don't think they are. It's the giving of financial advice that is the problem, not the, hey, look at me, I just got back from Dallas and had a great time and learned a bunch of cool stuff and met Emmett Smith. Okay, now sometimes you're regulated by the company who's helping you provide those services and stuff, and that does make it difficult. I mean, you're going to have a hard time if they're regulating you. It was just like if I have a contract, I own a dry cleaning franchise, I have a contract to send a newsletter every month. I got to do it. I got to follow the rules. I signed the contract. So, but in the financial services space, you can do it. You just got to be really careful about giving actual financial advice.
Data on the performance of a self-mailer versus using the entire space and putting it in an envelope?
Yeah, so the question was data on the performance of a self-mailer as compared to putting it in an envelope and using the entire thing. So a buddy of mine is Craig Simpson. If you guys know Craig Simpson, he sends out millions and millions of pieces of direct mail every single year and has been for a very long time. And so I was talking to Craig, actually, come back from Titanium in the airport about this last, I don't know when it was, October, maybe a year ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, but he said that in his findings, and this is where I'm going to take it from, that the self-mailer actually typically would perform better for them. And in the B2C, you almost exclusively should go in the self-mailer. You will get it opened more. And again, they've got to open it. That's one of the reasons that back panel is so good, because we can get them to open it and want to read it. Now, in B2B, if you get my newsletter, you know it comes in an envelope. And so you're probably saying, well, hold on, Sean, you send yours in an envelope. But I sometimes will send out, especially to our clients, we send out CDs to our clients and other things that go in the envelope. And then as well as you've got to remember, sometimes when you see a guy like me doing it, I've got to showcase all my wares, right? I got to show, hey, we could put it in an envelope if you would like to pay extra for that, right? So I've got to show everything we can do and not just do one thing. So what we found and what Craig's data found, and he does track very, very closely, is that the self-mailer actually does work better, especially in the B2B realm. I'm sorry, B2C. Yeah, I apologize. Excuse me. All right. Yeah, whoever's next. Back there, I think you were next.
You have a medical practice with multiple providers. Do you do a newsletter that's different for each provider to make it more personal?
Yeah, kind of. So what you do is, okay, these 3 pages, other than, say, the address and the phone number and the website and stuff, these 3 pages can all be the same. You change out the front page personal piece. So you only got to, so it's not an entirely new newsletter. It's one more article for each provider. And we do that. A lot of practices, we help, and I know other practices do it, but I mean, there's actually a gentleman, I don't know if he's in the room, but they own 11 dental offices. And so we interview each dentist and change that out. But that's how you do that. That way you don't have to create a whole new newsletter, because that would be a lot of work and crazy. No, it shouldn't be within the industry, typically speaking. So yeah, usually it should be. No, well, what happens is you don't get readership because, with all due respect, they don't care, even though they do business with you. I mean, at the end of the day, my clients who do newsletters with me, they don't want to know how to do newsletters. They just want me to do it for them. And they might have questions on how to make it better or more effective, but they really want it to be done. They don't know about. If they're a dentist, they don't want to know, they don't want gum disease, and they'd like to know how to get rid of it if they have it, but they don't want to read about it if they don't have it, And that's different. Yeah, case by case. If they're GKIC, we all read the newsletter here, right? And we're all read about marketing and stuff because we're all passionate about it and we like it. So there are exceptions absolutely to those rules, and I'd be happy to answer on you can tell me your industry afterwards, and I'd be happy to give you my opinion on it.
Couple of questions and comments. I'm a residential roofing contractor. So I roof somebody's home, and that's pretty much it. We're probably not going to be doing business again.
Like 20 years, right?
Yeah. So unless it's a hailstorm, more than likely that's it. I mean, would you recommend mailing to those clients?
No, you're probably, I mean, look, you can go for referrals, but typically you're probably going to be better off mailing cold. So we have a couple contractors we mail cold to. And in fact, a gentleman who's here, actually, no, I'm sorry, he had to leave today. His name's Jeb, and he was told, and he just relayed this story to me yesterday, literally, but he was mailing it out, his newsletter, and he got a $90,000 remodel off of it. And he asked him, well, hey, why'd you decide to pick us? And he goes, because you're the guy who keeps sending me the newsletter every month. Now, was that probably the only reason they chose him? I'm guessing it wasn't, but, it definitely didn't hurt.
Yeah, that's good feedback. I'm sending them out to my people that I do repair work for, because they maybe will buy another repair and maybe one day buy a roof. But every month for somebody that might buy from me once every 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, case by case, but you can go cold. You can go to your referral sources. People miss that. If you're like an oral surgeon or, you're an orthodontist or you're a lawyer, if you're not sending a newsletter for your referral sources, I mean, holy cow, the number of referrals you're missing out on is insane.
I mean, I guess where I'm leaning with this, I've heard it a lot of times, and from you and your newsletter, I'm on the receiving end of your newsletter and about 5 other newsletters that come monthly, and it just seems like a lot. Like every time I turn around, there's this newsletter there, and sometimes I'll read it. Now, I did take this speed reading class, so.
So now you can.
Yeah, I might
so
be
you're
reading
set.
them all, but.
Howard's stuff is great. Yeah, absolutely.
Allowable customer acquisition. Would I answer his question? Allowable customer acquisition.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to real estate agents too, are the same thing. Average person buys a house every 7 years. What kind of referrals? I think you had a question.
Going with what we've been learning this last 2 days, that the easiest customer to sell is someone you're already doing business with.
Absolutely.
Do you have another product that you sell to your customers that you're sending newsletters for?
Do I personally have other products that I sell?
Are you looking in the future saying, okay, I've got this database here of all these people that I'm doing business with. They're already buying from me on a month-to-month basis. They're happy with what we do. We give referrals.
How do I sell more to them?
What's the next product or the next sale you make to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it depends. We're going industry by industry. We have a B2B product. If I know I can look out here and see that I've got a number of clients sitting out here, they've been getting a CD from us every single month that is me interviewing someone from the TV show Shark Tank. So you guys are getting a lot of information that's going to be on my Marketer of the Year presentation. So I hope that you're not like, oh, that wasn't as interesting because I already heard it. But no, so it's a Shark Tank CD. I'm interviewing the guy, and I just did the guy who did Mission Belts. Anyone watch Shark Tank? Remember the Mission Belt? Like I'm wearing one right now. I love it. Okay, it's a great belt. And so now then didn't plan on that being another product. But now they've asked me, hey, can you stop saying Newsletter Pro in the front of it and put my stuff on it and then put like a little custom intro and exit for me, right? And so we've, that's an additional product that we do have for some of our niches. When we see that I've got a ton of people in this particular niche, we have some other products and we'll create other products that, hey, we found this great direct mail piece works. I mean, I own a ton of direct mail equipment. We print everything in-house, so it's not too hard if I want to burn off. Probably most of you here saw that letter, that little handwritten letter that we sent out, before the show and stuff, Well, I can print all that in-house because I own, bazillion dollars worth of printing equipment, right? So, all right, probably like one more.
What else would you put on page 3?
Okay. So, what industry are you in?
Coach.
You're a coach. For what type of people? All small businesses?
Business owner-operators that have 0 to half a dozen employees.
Okay, perfect. So on page 3 right here, for your niche, okay, this one here might be a great place to talk about work-life balance. This could be educational. It could be an educational article that is helping them improve their business. So we all want to make our business better. I mean, no one sitting in this room is not looking to make their business better. Maybe in like the outside world, but not here. And but yeah, work-life balance articles are very important because we all struggle with that. We all work too hard. I know I've been taking heat over it from my family for working too hard lately, right? So how do we do that? But people have issues with that. As much as most people don't like to implement time management strategies, they actually really do like to read about time management strategies. So, also anything a lot of people, especially outside of this room, believe it or not, they're trying to escape from real life. And anything that helps them do that actually works. They enjoy reading it. We all, that's why Facebook, I mean, I don't personally understand it, but I mean, I understand it. I don't want to tell everyone everything I'm doing, so I don't. But a lot of people love to do that. A lot of people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Different people like different things, and so you want to communicate them all. Does that help? All right. So we talked about those stats about retention is the new acquisition, right? We talked about how to make sure newsletters get read, the 5 biggest mistakes people make when publishing a newsletter, how to increase sales even to a cold list with freestanding inserts and things like that. Okay, we went over designing a newsletter. All right, so your most valuable asset is your list, and I think people miss this. This is what Dan's. If I would have known that this was going to be his theme, I mean, I could, but it really is. It's this relationship that you have with your list. It's the people who you do business with. I can tell you with our clients, and I'm going to show you some stuff. We do. I'll show you some stuff tomorrow, but we do crazy stuff in trying to maintain that relationship and to continue to do business with them. We all spend way too much money trying to get a new client in, and then we forget about them. And it's one of the biggest mistakes you make. I've always been looking for businesses. When I go to think I'm going to start a new business, I'm always saying, well, how am I going to retain them the longest? I had when I started this company, we were doing direct mail, as I said earlier. I was doing direct mail and I sold to restaurants. I had a great product for restaurants. We sold a ton of food for them, and we could prove it. But they lasted for like 7 months, and they were gone. Now, it didn't matter how much money I made them. They were gone. And I just said, hey, I'm not interested. That's not the client I want. It's too hard to run out and get you for you to disappear 7 months from now and not want to do business with me anymore. And so even increasing that a little bit, really, really helps. I mean, if you can take someone in 7 months and you can get them to 9 months or 12 months, you've made a big difference. You can afford to spend more to get them because you're keeping them longer. But we miss it. And the single best way is to keep up with your clients is with I'm going to actually take that back. The single best way is to invite them all over for dinner every Sunday. And if you can continue to be married, assuming you are, by doing that, then please do that. The second best way then is to actually send a monthly newsletter. And that's so that they can build a relationship with you. They can get to know and like you. They can trust you. It'll be much easier to sell more stuff to them. We had a dentist here today because we've got our booth down there, and he's been a client of ours. I think he started out at boot camp, and one of the GKC boot camps. And he's been a client of ours for a while, and he comes up and says, hey, I have had, there's not a day go by that I don't see a patient, that they don't come in and talk to me about something that was in my newsletter. Now, he sees his patients every single day, which is why that works. If you talk to him on the phone, you will hear about it. It takes 3 to 6 months, though, before that kicks in. That is not overnight. All right, so we touched on a couple of these. Top of mind awareness, I think most people are missing that, right? If they can't remember your name, there is no chance they're going to give you a referral. I just bought a house. So another one, we're building one on Monday. I had a very nice interaction with my real estate agent literally 7 years ago. It was like Monday it was 7 years to the day. I know that seems really weird, and we didn't plan it that way, but 7 years to the day I bought a new house, and they're going to build it and stuff. But it's, the lady was very nice. I've never heard from her, 7 years. And I'm buying a bigger house now than I bought the first time around. She would have made a lot more money. It would have been worth $1 a month to send me something, for her $72 investment or whatever it would have been well worth it. That commission is going to be nice for the agent we're working with. Very nice guy, but I couldn't pick her out to save my life. I was happy with the guy who gave me a mortgage last time too. I don't know who he is either. So trusted advisor status. This is something so we all have trusted advisors. For most of us, Dan Kennedy is a trusted advisor, but we're not friends with Dan. We don't go and hang out with him at the racetrack or go over to his house or, go to Denny's with him at, wherever he eats. Dan looks like a Denny's guy, doesn't he? So the funny thing is that actually, years ago, he used to hold, I remember he was telling a story at Titanium where he said that he just sent out kind of a letter or a phone call or smoke signals. It was a long time ago, obviously, so I don't know what he was doing back then. But he said, "Yeah, hey, I'm gonna have a little mastermind at Denny's, and just go ahead and come on down. Come on down. Anyone who wants to come in." And I was like, "Crap, man! I really should have used those copy critiques in the back of the books that he used to put in too, right? Don't we all kick ourselves for that?" But so that trusted advisor status, you don't have to actually know them personally to get that. We all know things about Dan. We all have a connection with Dan to some extent, and he is a trusted advisor. And we all buy stuff from Dan because he tells us to. And so you can have that in your business, even if it's a little bit different.
All right, you guys ready for Dan? Let's get on our feet then and hear it for one more time for Mr. Dan Kennedy. Here we go. Come on now, really louder. Come on, crank it up.
Did you have somebody find John and I stools? Yes. Where is John? Where is John? No, he's not sleeping. No. He's up. Come on up. He's bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. He told you guys he lost a bet. Is that the deal about why he had to be here this morning? We have photographs. And I must tell you, to be sufficiently embarrassing to get him up in the morning, they are some incredible photographs. Someone is fetching us stools.
This is this morning thing you've been talking to me about?
Yes. Surprisingly, it happens every day. And if we weren't inside, you would see a truly frightening object. It's orange, it rises in the sky. It's that thing you see at the end of the day that sets at Mallory Dock in Key West, remember? Well, in order to set, it has to come up. That happens before you crawl out of your coffin.
I'm only 2 hours away from my usual bedtime. So
There you go.
I'm half asleep.
Okay, so best political news I've heard so far since you've been locked up. Okay, so Hillary has announced she is definitely stepping down. Okay, to which Bill said, "Fine, but could you guys give me a heads up when she's on her way home?" Oh, come on now, that's funny. Okay, so let's talk sort of around copywriting. Oh, thank you very much. Give the old man his first, but I am going to want one. So, sort of the first thing you and I agreed that we would talk about is some underlying fundamental insight into the psychology of the buyer, the person we are actually trying to get to read our copy, respond to our copy, buy things from us, etc. So, what's your overarching position on who this person is and sort of where they start?
Okay, first, is anybody mad at me from last night? I have to double
What do
check.
you care?
Just Deutsch. Yeah, so has anybody got, has anybody spent time studying psychology? Got a degree in it or just dabbled in it, pop psychology? Anybody hung out with old school streetwise salesmen? That would be the main thing. Really? So, okay. Well, I accidentally got a...
Well, let me give you a better one. No, I'll help you. So how many people in here have actually sold hardcore, nose to nose, toes to toes, on the living room floor, in a showroom, etc. Okay. Now keep your hands up if you like actually cashed a commission check. I mean, you actually like made some money doing it. Okay. See, they're not hopeless.
Okay, good.
There you go.
Yeah, I accidentally got a degree in psychology, a 4-year degree from the University of California, and I graduated into the teeth of the '74 recession, and absolutely nothing I learned there was of any value. There were 20,000 BAs in psychology given out in the United States that year for one job that was available. So I think I wound up as a child care worker in Sacramento for a couple of years. Anyway,
Did you know, by the way, that was on the test you take in high school? I was supposed to be a social worker.
oh really?
Yeah. That was, I'm serious.
in a way
No,
you
I'm
are.
serious. That's what you know that aptitude test thing you take? I was supposed to be a social, hey, I'd have been efficient. I could handle a big caseload. Get a job, next. I mean, you know.
Stop whining, yeah. Yeah, so I took an interest in psychology into my life as a freelance copywriter and hung out with the streetwise salesmen and really paid attention to old school psychology. So when I started writing direct response advertising, it was a very short move for me to go from looking at the audiences out there in a target market and then looking kind of beneath the surface and looking at what I believed they needed to happen to be able to move them off of their inaction. And when I described it later when I started writing about this, I described people in the average market as a somnambulistic blob welded to the couch so firmly it wouldn't leave to save its ass if the house was burning down. And your job as an ad writer is to get them to take out their wallet and actually take some action. So this is what I was talking about last night with how easy it can be to get somebody up on the fence, to get somebody to agree with you that, yeah, you got a good product and maybe someday down the road I'll buy it. But you got to get them to act, and that's where the pro is separated from the rookie.
You know, that's why, and I'm reasonably certain you agree, that's why I push people to study the old direct response so much. I say there's old and the gold because they had a much tougher job at what he just described really than we do now, because they actually did have to get him up off the couch. I mean, somebody had to go get a checkbook out of the kitchen drawer, write out a check, fill out a coupon, put it in an envelope, not talk themselves out of it, get a postage stamp, and drop it in a mailbox in order to respond. And then finally, they were able to respond by phone when 800 numbers and the ability to take a credit card over the phone. But that's more recent than it is ancient. Sugarman was the first guy to put an 800 number in a direct response ad and be able to take orders by credit card over the phone. So that's what, 30?
The early 70s, yeah.
Yeah, early 70s. So I know for some of you that's ancient history, but not for John and I, and not for many. I mean, it's not like it was at the turn of the century, for God's sakes. So those people doing direct response then had a much higher hurdle to move this person John just described, and I generally share the same disdainful idea of where they are.
Well, there's a subtle balance there. It's not, you don't get the idea that I don't like my customer. I like him a lot. In fact, one of the things that I try to teach people that come to me for advice just on life and stuff is that salesmen lead better lives. The people who know how to sell and understand what Dan and I are talking about, the ability to get somebody to move and actually buy something, you lead a better life because you can't do that if you don't live firmly in reality. And the vast majority of people live kind of on the surface of life, you know, kind of bobbing around like flotsam and jetsam on the surface of the ocean, taken hither and to, you know, by the waves. And entrepreneurs and who are good salesmen actually start to control your life. You have goals, you go forward, you are the engine of your success, you move yourself forward. That is not shared by the vast majority of people out there. They are living in very shallow lives. Salesmen lead better lives all the way around. You don't look at the world the way you wish it was or the way you think it ought to be. You look at the world the way it is. And people get shocked when they first start thinking about this because they think, well, does that mean I have to despise my customer base? No, you actually start to love people more when all of the nonsense falls away, all of the BS is taken away, and you're actually dealing with people for who they are and how they will actually act as opposed to the way you think they should or ought to act. And it changes the whole dynamic.
And where they start. So I think that one of the mistakes, and so salespeople, you learn not to start at a different place than the prospect is because you get feedback, right? You sit across the kitchen table, you sit across the desk in the office, and if they're over here and you start here, you pretty quickly get a feel of that and you sort of back up and retrench. We don't get that feedback when we sell through media. And a very common mistake is making assumptions about where they are and starting further along than they are in the process towards making a decision about whatever it is that you are putting in front of them. So like what you just said, that we have our own engines, and our engines like start pretty quick. They either don't have their own engine or it's still got a hand crank. And so we got to start way back with them there, not like ready to hear the good news about the thing we have to offer them.
And Dan, do you remember the first time you met somebody who was a customer who you had not met before, and they were a little astonished that you didn't know them because they felt they knew you so well?
Yes.
They actually felt they had, and that's
Which
when
is what's supposed to happen, right?
But that moment that it happens is you realize now you've arrived as a marketer because the communication that you just effected with them might have been a year ago, and they bought, and then you've got more things going back and forth. They're reading your newsletters, they're reading your stuff. They feel that connection on a visceral level. And you, how many people feel you know Dan after reading him with these years before you met him? So that's a major step in moving from being a so-so entrepreneur to to having the unlimited potential. And I'd like to add one other side to that psychology thing that I had. For myself, I operated from a gun-to-the-head position, and I found out later that Halbert did the same thing, and Jay Abraham did the same thing. I don't know if you did, but I had no backup. I had no freelance. I'd never met a freelancer when I became one. I was making up the gig as I was going along, and I was one of the few freelancers down in Los Angeles in the 80s because it just wasn't an occupation that was well thought of or even that a lot of people knew about. So I had to make up things as I was going. One of the things I did was I imagined a gun was to my head when I was writing an ad that would go off if the ad didn't work. And how would I react to that? So would I choose that headline? Would I take that tact in my sales pitch? Would I tell a joke or would I be straightforward? And over again, that idea of my life is on the line if this ad doesn't work kept me really focused on classic salesmanship. So I didn't experiment because when it came down to it, writing for a client, I already had the money or I was going to get paid whether the ad worked or not, so in a lot of writers you can get lazy. Rather than that, I kept thinking, what's the one thing I would do if my life really, really depended on that? So the gun-to-the-head philosophy of working erases a lot of the BS that can leak into your writing when you're thinking, well, why not try this? Well, because it won't work, So
one of the evils of the internet is that it has caused marketers to dramatically increase the quantity of their output to their customers and made them therefore quick, sloppy, and casual about a lot of it. Whereas really most people would be better off putting 75% less out and really working on the 25% to get it right. I mean, John's absolutely right. I mean, those of us, and of course, as a freelancer, once you're in the game for royalties, not just fees, then from a monetary standpoint, you actually care whether or not this stuff works, not just from an ethical standpoint or a professional reputation standpoint. But I'm often more concerned that it works than the client is, even. And yeah, you work on it like this is life or death, and this baby's got to produce, or else. And I think a lot of marketers do not do that. They are like, okay, we're going to get 2 emails out a day this week, and we're going to do it every day for 5 days. Let's slap these babies together, and let's push the button. And I think it's a mistake.
And one of the things that I know you've come up with, or come up against with clients, which I do, is that you will write the ad that you believe needs to be run to do it. And everything that you know says this ad needs to be run. What's the first thing the client says? But my daughter, the English lit major, read it and thinks you ought to change the headline, now use this word and do this. And if you don't have control as a freelancer, one of the first things I teach freelancers is to become the adult in the room. You control the situation. You are not a vendor. You are in control. You do that by charging massive amounts of money.
And firing people.
And one of the things I used to do in the agencies, I'd walk in and I said, I won't work with you guys until you fire the designer. Because the designer had way too much seeing what the ad looked like. He wanted gray floating blocks of copy under his designs. And that was back in the 80s before direct response had reestablished itself as a working medium.
See, John, the chief point here is that there are reliable things to do, and they are based on behavioral. So I say direct response is roughly half behavioral psych and half math. That's really what it is. And so there's reliable psychological principles, there's reliable sales principles, and yes, somebody periodically innovates, but it's really not necessary to be the innovator in order to make a lot of money in this field. There's a fairly predictable, reliable path of elements that make things work, and they really haven't changed. Media's changed, technology's changed, but a presentation that works is a presentation that works is a presentation that works.
And, you and I, as writers, what were we just talking about in the hallway before we came in? If we want to be creative, we'll go write a freaking novel.
We'll write a novel.
And be creative there.
Although it turns out, truth be told, so that's not that creative a process either. So, when I got in advertising, I thought it was a creative exercise, and it is not that at all. It is a methodical exercise. It turns out fiction is harder, yes, harder, and also methodical. There are formulas, there are architectures, there are reliable things. I want to shift gears because I'm going to watch the clock. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about the whole circle the desk thing.
Sure.
What goes on really before we get a word on paper?
I did 2 things when I started writing for myself, and really being a freelancer is an entrepreneurial gig. I was, it was my own business, and I had to figure out how to make sure I was doing it and doing it right. So I made a couple of decisions. One was business before pleasure, which for a slacker changed my life. That's all I did. Is I could still have a drink with the boys and party and do whatever, but I had to finish all the business first. So that was huge. But then what I did is I started thinking, wait a minute, I need to really nail down this working environment for me. And I needed every trick in the book on my side. So I actually wore writing clothes. How many people have writing clothes or a hat or something that they do? Okay, you've heard people talk about put on your writer hat or something, or put on your salesman hat. I literally did that, and it helped. Now, one of the reasons one of the reasons that helped is because my writing clothes are dirty sweats and an old t-shirt. So I actually couldn't go to the door and answer it or walk outside to the thing. I was stuck in there unless I was going to change clothes. And I actually had different hats on that I would do. I'd put a different hat on when I would call a client. I'd put a different hat on when I was ready to sit down and actually face I started out with a typewriter. That's how old I freaking am. But, whether I was staring at a monitor or a blank sheet of paper. And what I developed, what Dan was mentioning there, is this habit of getting into the mood to write. How many people, I told you that writer's block doesn't exist last night, but how many people have trouble gearing up to sit down and actually write the stuff you need to write?
Yeah, it's because your subconscious isn't ready.
Right.
That's exactly.
And that's why what I started doing is, I like dogs. I noticed that dogs circle things. They circle around before they lay down. And I started circling the desk. and I'd actually work myself into a froth. Now, I didn't approach the desk until I was ready to write, and that's why I never encountered writer's block. So what Dan was talking about last night, I had all my ducks in a row. I knew what I was going to do. So when I sat down, I wasn't thinking, well, where do I start? I knew where to start. I knew who I was going after. I knew what the pain points were. I knew what the feature benefits were. And by the way, when I write, I usually write the bullets first and then move to a headline and then start writing. So I construct the ad in a kind of like building a house or remodeling a house. So, but I would circle the desk and work myself into a froth. And one of the things that I thought when I was sitting down, I would think, God damn it, there are people walking around out there today that have money in their wallet that belongs to me. And the universe will not be right until I rectify that situation. Thank you very much.
Dogs also pee to mark their territory. I hope you were not doing that in your
Dan,
office.
you promised you wouldn't bring that part of it.
No, that
I
work,
wear
that,
astronaut underwear when I write.
that work area probably got smelly after a length of time. So I hear from people all the time, and your hands went up a lot, that, you know, for you writing is hard, and how can I take a newsletter once a month or sales letter? If writing at a decent speed is difficult for you, it is because your preparation is poor.
Yep.
It's just that simple. And one or both kinds of preparation. So one is the pragmatic preparation of knowing having a profile of who you're writing to, having some sort of template in place, having some good swipe files until you get so old and accomplished at it like Key and I are, where I imagine you, like me now, 90% of the time you're working out of the swipe files in your head, not the swipe files in the back room, although they are still there. But so there's that kind of preparation. You know, am I practically ready to write? And then is your subconscious in gear? Does it know that that's what's supposed to be happening right now? And almost every copywriter has some sort of ritualistic behavior, not necessarily the one he described, but some sort of ritualistic behavior. They have an environment. I mean, real copywriters aren't writing at Starbucks. Okay? The world thinks that's their office somehow, and Schultz has convinced everybody that that's their office, or Panera Bread, for God's sakes. Real copywriters have an environment that they have organized, a place, and not only is it because their stuff is there and they're maybe protected from disruptions, it's because their subconscious knows when they enter that place, oh, okay, I gotta flip open the drawers, I gotta turn on the switches, this is now all about writing. And so when it's difficult for you, it's really a matter of preparation more than it is you can't write, writing is hard, you don't have a good idea.
And let me help some of you out who do have this trouble. Just go ahead and develop your own routines. You can do whatever you want. There are two kinds of writers, those who work in complete silence. I work in complete silence. And those who play music in the background. Stephen King wrote with AC/DC blaring.
I have the TV on.
Okay, so
I have the television on.
There's a number of writers.
Over here, and I don't see it, but
exactly. So it's like white noise, so it does that. So don't worry about that. Choose that, either one or the other, but get your routine down so that you do that. Take the phone off the hook and make a big deal about taking the phone off the hook. And a lot
nobody
of
has
writers,
hooks.
Pardon me?
We're
don't have
both
hooks anymore.
phone
No,
off hook.
click it
See,
off. Yeah, click
phone off
your-
hook, typewriter.
Things,
Yeah. Say,
actually, I had one of those wooden chairs.
I'm sensitive to this because I have this titanium member who has no frame of reference for any of this stuff. So like 20 times during a mastermind meeting, I have to explain to her what the object is I'm talking about, because, you know.
The color adjustment knob on the
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
But get your
God damn, I hadn't thought about that in a long time. A color adjust, wow.
Shut up. Actually,
Wow.
I found a picture of myself in the 50s, and the first TV you had was round, you know, and that was a move up from the one that reflected off the mirror when you opened. Anyway, What was I talking about? Oh, and for your routine, whatever you need to do, but get the routine down. It can be a 2-minute routine or a 5-minute routine, whatever you do, but set it down. But make it so that nobody's going to disturb you, and then set a clock. This was a big breakthrough
This is
for a lot of
big.
people.
This is very big.
Yeah, start with 50 minutes out of an hour, work for 2 hours with 10-minute breaks. So work for 50 minutes and then take a 10-minute break and literally leave, get out of that, and when you come back, do your routine again to get back into it.
Now, see,
Don't
we're
work-
stylistically different on that. So, like, I take no breaks.
Well,
but I,
find out if that's how you
right,
can
but
work.
I write to a deadline just like you do. I mean, if you don't have a stop point, that you're working toward, right, your subconscious just doesn't know when it needs to be done.
It's astonishing what an alarm clock, and I would get an old school alarm clock, or you can use your iPhone and it goes off and it does that little drum beat or whatever.
See,
But-
now you're making adjustments. See, I made you hypersensitive about
Very
this.
sensitive to it. Actually, I have a dog that wakes up and has to go pee every hour. So
There you go,
guys are
perfect.
Sleeping at my feet. But find out, and it could be your 45 minutes and 15 minutes, could be your half an hour and half an hour, could be, mine's more like 2 hours and then half an hour and then back for 2 hours and then I'm done. 4 hours of writing is more, if you're steady, productive, in 4 hours of writing, you get more done than the average marketer gets done in a month.
But you want to dictate end times, and I dictate the amount of work that's going to be done by that end time. So if it's 16 pages and it's been assigned 50 minutes, my entire system now knows that it's got 50 minutes to do 16 pages.
And one of the big things I remember that you cemented down, I was kind of already in that camp, but I tend to be a perfectionist sometimes. I know it's hard to believe, but sometimes I do. And Dan used to preach, good enough is good enough. I don't know if you already talked about that yesterday or not. But that is really important. Know when to stop, and it's short, it's not perfect. Perfect ads seldom work anyway. And often what you're doing is you're messing with what's going to be a 1% difference.
That's right, it's
or
incremental.
less. So when it's good enough, that's when you pump. That's why Dan does 2 edits and he's done. I will do more, but I'm working sometimes for clients who demand that perfection. They don't want the occasional typo in there. But most ads, we used to purposely put typos in our printed ads and our direct mail. So if it was perfect, it still didn't look perfect. But you can get that just by doing 2 less edits usually. Okay, that's a tangent. Sorry.
So last night, I know you lived on USP. However, maybe to revisit or extend, or give you another bite at that apple, I think One-Legged Golfer, of course, is an all-time classic. I think.
Getting there? The process of getting there?
Yeah, I think you're one of the best at getting to the big idea, what Nicholas called the hidden benefit, the hook, the thing that really makes a pitch stand apart from all other pitches in its category. And
Okay, how many people have seen my One-Legged Golfer ad? That was a big breakthrough for me because of 2 things. One was I had a client who I wasn't going to work for. I was actually having my 2nd or 3rd midlife crisis and was playing in biker bars in this band that I formed. I didn't want to work at all. So they lured me to come back to work they promised they would take the leash off. And what that meant was that they were going to run anything I wrote. They would mail it and they would put it into magazines and they'd swallow hard and they would not change a word. And that to a writer who has worked with clients who is always changing stuff was like catnip. I mean, it was just, okay, so we went and did it. So I just threw myself into this knowing that there was no limit to what I could do. I mean, I could ruin these guys if I wanted to, but my goal was to make them very successful, which I was able to do. And so what I did is what Dan was talking about yesterday, again, the prep part. I started interviewing clients, and one of the first products they had was a golf guy who had this strange swing that if you adopted the swing, and they were selling videotapes, that's going back, not even DVDs. So on videotape, they just filmed this guy, doing this swing, and I was supposed to sell this videotape, an instructional golf video. It was kind of new back then. This is probably 1991, I think, something. And so I thought, that's pretty boring. There's not a lot going on there. There's nothing for me to get my teeth around. So I interviewed what we call the talent, the guy behind the thing. I was talking to him for about an hour on the phone. Wacky guy, but no stories came out. And finally I said, how did you come up with this triple coil swing that you call? He says, that old story, nobody wants to hear that. I was golfing one day behind a foursome. One of the guys only had one leg, and as he hopped up to the first tee to swing, I thought for sure he was gonna fall over, but he didn't. He had this perfect swing, and he knocked a 300-yard drive, and I had this epiphany at the point, and I just said, stop. And I said, I pretty much got it. So this is what inspired you. He says, yeah, but nobody wants to hear that stuff.
Here's what's really important about this, because we have this experience with clients all the time. They've got something spectacular, and it's old hat to them. They don't know it has any value, which means you have something like that too. I have yet to find anybody that doesn't, that with enough probing, they're sitting on a story they ought to be telling. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to talk about story, by the way. They're sitting on a story they ought to be telling that they either don't like, they're embarrassed by, yet they should be using it. They feel it's trading on something, they cancer recovery, they feel it's trading on something like that. They don't put any value on it, whatever. They've got it, which means you've got it.
Dan, this goes back to when I used to deal with clients. If I gave them an ad and they said, this is great, can't wait to run it, I knew, bomb.
Yep.
This thing was not going to work. I want a client so nervous that the only reason he runs the ad is because he's paying me so much money. It would be the sunk cost theory is eating away at him, because they don't want to do it. And one of the ways you get to that is what Dan was just alluding to. I would interview the secretaries, the feet and street salesmen, everybody else but the guy I was dealing with, because I would get an edited, dreamlike story from the guy who owned the company. I want to hear the gossip, the rumors. I want to hear what the guys who have to actually handle the refunds coming in. I want to talk to the people who are doing customer support. And often the best stuff you'll get is just right outside his office. They'll go, oh yeah, he told you that? That's bullshit. And,
so you'll like
the story will bubble up.
So you'll like this, and I don't think I've told you. So
Oh, okay.
a few years ago, I did a bunch of work for Miracle Ear, the hearing aid company. Okay? They spent $2 million with me, by the way, and used almost nothing that I gave them.
For sure sign you did it right.
Oh yeah, it was perfect. The franchisees that did use it kicked butt, but corporate, set themselves on fire. But that's neither here nor there. So Miracle Ear sells hearing aids. They got about 1,200 stores across the country. The interesting thing about the company is the original founder, the guy that started it, has sold it, bought it back for less than he sold it for, sold it, bought it back, to big dumb companies 4 times in his lifetime. Okay? The only reason he's not doing it a 5th time is he's 92 years old, right? So he sells it to a big dumb company. They screw it all up. He buys it back. He fixes it. He turns it back into a direct sales company and builds it back up, sells it to some big dumb company. So when I was working for him, they had just come out of being owned by Bausch & Lomb, who thought hearing aids were eyeglasses, which they aren't. And it's more like erectile dysfunction pills than it is eyeglasses for the male buyer. I mean, it's a big emotional deal. It's, we're old. Yeah. So here's the deal. So I'm interviewing franchise owners on the phone because I don't trust anything the corporate client is telling me, right? Just like I wouldn't trust anything you're telling me, in part because you got a belief system that builds up about your business and your customers and so forth that you become emotionally committed to that often is not reality, in part because you got some asset like this that you don't know you've got, that you don't value. So as John said, you got to go poke around other places. And if you're doing it for yourself, you got to be willing to kind of wipe the slate clean as best you can of all your biases and start doing the same poking around as if you had brought yourself in as an outsider. Hard, but not impossible. So I'm interviewing these franchise owners. And I don't know, I'm on the phone for an hour with 8, 10 of them. And the one I'm on the phone with used to be president of the company. And now he's, at one time, and now he's retired and he's got one little unit in Bumlunk, Alabama, and he plays a lot of golf, so he starts telling me about the founder, which nobody has told me about the founder. But he was president when the founder was running, one of the times the founder was running the company. He goes, yeah. So he starts telling me about the founder. So now understand a hearing aid, especially to a male, you're selling to a 60 to 80-year-old guy. It's a big emotional deal. These are people who don't go to doctors unless they're drugged there. They still are big self-reliance guys. This is a big...
And damn it, if people would just speak up.
This is a big admission, yeah. But it's also, it's a big admission of weakness and frailty and age that nobody wants to make, right? So the founder of this company, his name is Ken Dahlberg. So Ken is he's a real life Audie Murphy or a real life John Wayne if you want a more contemporary reference. So he's a World War II fighter pilot, this guy. Shot down twice, once escaped from France on a bicycle under barbed wire, smuggled out by people who rescued him from the field. He's got a Purple Heart. He shot down, he's got some award for shooting down more planes than anybody else on the planet. I mean, he crawls out from under the barbed wire, gets home, and the first thing he does is sign up for the next mission. I mean, this guy's a real life World War II hero, right? He's still getting a royalty on the product because every time he sells the company, he keeps a royalty. So he's still getting money. So he'll do stuff. First of all, they think he's an idiot, which he isn't. Second, they think nobody wants to hear that story. I'm hearing this, I'm going, that's the voice. That's the story, right? Because now we can make this about doing something courageous, because he wears them, right? That this is really a courageous thing to do, not a weak thing to do. We can put it in his voice. They're not using him at all. They don't even have to go rent a celebrity. They got one. And they're not even using the guy. And if I hadn't made the phone calls and I hadn't talked to the franchise owners, I probably never would have found it. Because you had to go back in company literature almost 50 years to find it being used, because gradually everybody around him convinced him to stop telling the story, and he didn't want to tell the story anymore, and so forth. And we find this again and again and again, and I promise you, you've got assets like this that you aren't leveraging. It's a good exercise amongst each other, by the way, in mastermind groups. It's a good thing, it's a good place to do it, is to probe each other. I don't mean physically necessarily, but
One small caveat to that. The one-legged golfer ad that I wrote has been ripped off, I think, more than almost any other ad. And it's still running, by the way. I still collect royalties on that every month. That ad is now going on over 20 years old. It worked fine when the web came along, and it's been in mail, and it still appears in tight markets that we're going to. But people rip it off, and you can't use that for an accountant. You can't say, the amazing secrets of a one-legged accountant that will help you, beat the IRS at their own game. There has to be relevance. So what Dan was talking about with this guy, he found the hook between this guy's experience to the problem that people were having with admitting that they needed to wear the hearing aids. If you get that guy, and they never ran it. I can't believe that they.
a lot of the work I did for them,
It's sitting moldering in a file somewhere.
some of the smaller franchise owners used it. Corporate pretty much went in and backed out,
Go figure.
But anyway, so clients are, a topic.
All clients suck.
All clients suck.
I had that written above my desk for 20 years. All
Some
clients.
are worse than others, but
And when I started working for myself, I sucked. I was the worst client I ever had in my life. So that's for entrepreneurs, just realize that. Suddenly all the stuff that I forced my clients to do for 30 years, I wasn't willing to do when I was doing my own stuff. I can't use that headline. What about my reputation?
well, that's the first, so I call it the entrepreneurial transition. That's when you realize you have a really bad manager, you have a really bad employee, you are both of them, and nobody can get fired. This is awful,
You're related to both of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth always having at least one other employee so you have somebody periodically you can fire. Or at least fantasize about fire, So, biggest in your entire career, biggest single discovery, thing that surprised you, breakthrough.
Well, I'd have to say that was for me, when I started out, and I told you guys last night how I went to the Torrance Municipal Library and read everything in the Dewey Decimal System, 600 to 820 or whatever it was. And the things that I pulled out of there that I liked were old books, and a lot of them were out of print. And that turned, one of the books that really, really hit me hard was Claude Hopkins' Scientific Advertising and My Life in Advertising, almost always published as a single book, but it's two different books he wrote. In 1921, David? No? 1921? Yeah. Yeah. So, and even then when I found it, I thought, well, you know, to me, this was an insight into the kind of salesmanship that I wasn't finding, because the other books I was pulling off of the shelf were much more recent, more like textbooks, and they talked about stuff that didn't, you know, sounded good, but it was theory and it wasn't how to do it. And here's this guy from, you know, half a century ago that was telling me all this. And what happened was me liking that became my entry into meeting when I met Jay Abraham and Gary Halbert and Joe Sugarman. It was their favorite books too. And we had this little cabal of people who, the things that we were using were books that were out of print. When I was working with Gary, we paid $1,000 for a third generation mimeograph of the Robert Collier letter book. I don't know if that's one of the ones you recommend.
Yeah, and now you can get it at Amazon, by the way.
Well, you know, what happened was when we started doing the seminars, guys like Galletti and stuff came out, and they found, you know, got these for nothing. And are now publishing them, so they're all back in print. But this stuff was out of print. I mean, Howard made that trek to the National Library of Congress, and spent years in there reading, not years, spent weeks in there reading out of print books that you couldn't otherwise find. And he just found these things by Kennedy. Who was that guy, Kennedy, and the
John E.
Yeah. The original guys. And what was, I mean, just the discovery that was my connection to these guys. And of course, the next intellectual thing is that really means there's a connection between us and cavemen who are selling stuff to each other. I forget who it was that found in an obscure text that there were used chariot salesmen in Rome.
Well, so seriously, there was a national, people think USA Today was the first national newspaper. There was a national newspaper during the Civil War called Harper's Weekly, not to be confused with Harper's Magazine, which came later. And it was a national newspaper like USA Today is today. And so I have replica issues. You can buy replica issues now of this newspaper. And the classified section is full of lead generation ads for get rich in real estate, how to get a job in sales, right? And yeah, and stuff that you could buy and resell, be a direct salesperson and make money, and then direct response ads for baldness cures, and a lot of the products, by the way. So like there's an ad in a Civil War era Harper's newspaper for the electric vibrating hairbrush, which stimulates your follicles and somehow regrows hair. There is a current ad in the Sharper Image catalog for the same stupid product that doesn't do anything. And by the way, if you lay it side by side with the Harper's ad from the Civil War, there's enormous similarity. However, the Civil War ad is better, all right? So, you know, these fundamentals, and that's the thing that should be really encouraging to everybody, especially anybody that's sort of new to info marketing, to direct marketing, is they are locked in place fundamentals that you can absolutely rely on, that really nothing has changed. And people all the time, so I'm going to jump to that. So people always think the next new media changes the rules, right? And so we've lived long enough, we've been through this with media that has come and gone. But most—
Remember 900 numbers?
900 numbers. See, most people, that was the big, that was like everybody talking about Facebook now. Everybody was talking about 900 numbers. There were seminars, there were training programs, there were speakers running around
And
teaching.
we told them over and over again, it's going to be sex lines, guys.
Yep.
But they all wanted to have latest sports scores, weather,
which pretty much, by the way, still is what e-commerce is too. It's 80% sex and 20% the rest of us. But so here's my question, specific to all the online media. Okay, how do you feel your skills, your methodology, your approach is antiquated by any of that, or has to be altered by any of that? What has it changed any of the rules you live by?
Yes, the physical rules. I cut my teeth as a A-list copywriter by writing for the largest mailers in the United States, like Rodale and things like that. So I got to the point where I would start writing, and when I was done, I would either have an 8-page or a 12-page or a 16-page direct mail letter. And it was because I just trained myself so long. And the reason you go 8 or 12 or 16 is because that's how they were printed. It's called a 4-page signatures would actually go through the physical print. Couldn't be a 15-pager because that would be a blank page on the back. And if I went 1 page over I think it was 4 pages plus a brochure and some other things, would pretty much be an ounce. And then you'd pay for each little thing that would go above that. So the physical nature of that was very real. The same with newspaper ads, of course. You had a certain amount of space. You could only drop the point size so far before it became unreadable, and you kept packing stuff in there. The web removed that to a large degree, much to the chagrin of the futures for a lot of marketers who realized Dave and I have talked about this, in 2004 or something, a number of the marketers that were actually selling a lot online, they were newbies in markets. It was low-hanging fruit. They were writing 100-page sales letters because they just didn't know when to stop. There was no deadline. There was no reason to stop. They could write whatever they want. One URL could be as many pages as you could fit. So it erased that. But I find that when I write for online things, in a print ad, it still comes down to what is essentially an 8 or 12-page letter, because I can cover everything I need to know. So the discipline is gone. That would be the main thing. And video sales letters actually have reintroduced discipline, because you can't go on forever in a video. Although
End of America, 92 minutes. You can go a long way, but
a lot of the ones that are working, the last I heard was 29 minutes on average for direct response video, sales videos. Not lead gen, but sales videos. I think it was John Benson was talking about the 29-minute. So I may be wrong by a few minutes. That's a long time. That's a long time. But it is still a concise time, and they got there from testing. They tested it out. So there are differences. Kind of like when, the one thing that I learned from Dan was when infomercials came around. That was a new medium that came, and it was on TV. Now, it wasn't new to advertise on TV, and infomercials actually went back to the birth of the medium. The early shows in the 50s were all infomercials. The Johnny Carson was an infomercial. The dancing cigarette boxes. I better not talk about this stuff. You guys have no idea what I'm talking about. But infomercials weren't new, but the form that came about because of cable TV did change things, because there were concise periods of time to get in. And you were like one of the inventors of the thing.
Close.
But you were there with the guys who invented the blue screen. And then they decided a blue screen has to appear every 15 minutes, and then it was every 10 minutes. They started testing, and pretty soon it became very concise. The first infomercials I wrote, we had a client, Gary and I, they bought scrap TV time at a channel in Los Angeles. We went in and wrote the thing as we went, had a set there, and the guy would bring on, you know who this guy is?
Hal Morris.
Yeah. This guy would bring on a guy to sell something, and he'd just talk to him. And when they were done, because they knew they had a 45-minute or an hour or a 29-minute slot to fill for free that night on BET, so they would stop. And the first one I saw, Hal started talking to the guy. The guy goes, "Wait, we're recording?" And he goes, "Yeah, come on, go." They left that in, no editing, went straight from when they were, and then when it was over, he said, "Okay, that's done." And they slammed it up on BET that night for free, because BET didn't realize that time was so valuable. It was 2 a.m., and they thought nobody's going to pay or watch at 2 a.m. You can have it. And so that was a wild period of time. But then from that no rules. It started, people tested, and the cable networks realized that at that time was very valuable. So you see these things go through this. The web has gone through that same process. Now it's being much more circumscribed in the way, from testing, by the way, which is the essence of direct response.
Well, that's the best thing about it, is it's a great place to test.
For cheaper, but
Yes.
I still run it. It was something
It's
said,
only indicative if it's not predictive, right, is what I always say. Because if you move something from one media to the next,
Right.
it may have worked or not worked in one, but it could have life in another.
I get so many clients though that are online that come to me and they brag about how big their list is. It's like, I got 70,000 people on my list. How many of those are buyers? I don't know.
7.
I became a cash millionaire with a list of 300 people first, and get the numbers right, get the math right, guys. That what's going on? What did you say? It was
Half behavioral psych, half math.
Half math.
Most people don't like the math, by the way. They don't like that part of the process, but
You don't
but
have
the
to
math
be a
is
math
everything.
whiz, but you need to know what numbers count and what don't. I still get questions like, what percentage response should I expect to get from my whatever? I don't know, If you sell something for $1 million, you only need one response out of whatever size your list is.
It's one of the all-time dumbest questions. It's the most frequently asked question.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, right? Only ROI matters. But most clients, including good, smart clients, I can usually stump them with 5 questions. I mean, it's just amazing how few people know the numbers of their business. What does it cost you to get a customer from source A versus source B? What was the customer worth over 12 months from source A versus source B? People don't know this stuff. And,
Well, when you
and
had
they're
that-
making, decisions in the dark.
Yeah, when you had that slide of the test, headline A with to offer B,
Yep.
you do that. How many different permutations did that come out to? It was like
Oh, well, I just stopped. But I mean,
Right, but-
you could very easily have a matrix with 200, 250 different.
Right. But what's interesting is that you get somebody who's all math, and they will take a bad headline with a bad offer and do all this testing and keep coming up with 0. So sell one thing first, move through, and that's where the guys that know the behavioral psych understand they can have a really good offer and a really good headline. But what happens with testing is that you get an old school guy who doesn't want to do the numbers, and somebody else comes in and actually says, did you try testing against that headline or that offer? And he says, no, I go by my gut. Those tests usually prove that guy wrong at some point. So, and all ads tire out. So you can never rely on a single ad. So you got to get hit to the stuff: behavioral psychology and math.
Stuff wears out faster because of online. And in online, not always, but a lot of times. I mean,
That's a major problem I ran into with as a freelancer too. When you're running an ad, you will get tired of it before the math
Absolutely.
tires out. So you got to be let the math tell you when it's time to change the ad or do something. Don't try to circumvent the natural life cycle of an ad.
you remember my Go by the Inch show. We had Go by the Inch on for 8.5 years, and after 6 months, almost every week, I had a conversation with Len where he's calling up, we got to do a new show. So why do we got to do a new show? Well, the numbers are the same. Then why do we have new? Everybody's seen it. I said, no, if you would quit getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch your own damn show, you would not think everybody's seen it, And we ran that show for 8.5 years without a single change in it, and still making money to the bitter end. We have 7 minutes. Last question. You kind of went there with some authors, but people often ask, and so it's a good question, who 2, 3, 4 major influencers of how you approach selling and copy that people might want to Amazon, Google, go hunt for in a used bookstore, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was really lucky, and I happened to live in Los Angeles at a time when the New York agencies opened up direct response branches in Los Angeles. It was a golden age back in the early 80s. They're all out of business now. But I was the guy that would sneak in the back door because their staff didn't understand direct response, and they didn't want the clients to see me because I am who I am. So they sneak me in, and I do that writing. But living down there at that time was Jay Abraham, And I met him because he pissed me off, and I went to his office to hit him. He had run an ad in the Los Angeles Times looking for direct response copywriters, and he sent me back a form letter saying, you really need to read Claude Hopkins if you're going to get into this biz. And I had already devoured everything of that, so I was really ticked off that he hadn't even looked at my letter or my stuff. We wound up being great friends, and I traded hanging around his office for doing work for him. So I worked for free, but my payment was being able to hang out there. So I got to watch him do consultations. And that was the first time I saw, this is a long time ago when $2,000 meant something. People paid $2,000 an hour to fly into Los Angeles and go and sit in his office while he would sometimes exercise and just pontificate. And it was worth it at the time because there was no other source for that stuff. At Jay's divorce party, I met Gary Halbert. Gary Halbert, when I met him, was the most arrogant, dismissive bastard I'd ever met in my life, and I liked him immediately. And we became fast friends. I started out, he was a mentor, and then we worked together, and we were lifelong friends until he died a couple of years ago. And through Jay, I met John Finn. I don't know how much you knew John Finn.
I knew John a little.
He was the only agent for direct response freelance copywriters in the world. He just invented it. He said somebody needs to be an agent. So I met him, and he started hooking me up with people. And I started ghost writing for a couple of writers who became very, very famous. One is Jim Rutz, who is a very interesting guy. But the thing about Jim is that he taught me discipline. He made me, I wrote a perfect piece. I ghost wrote for him, essentially. I wrote he got the deal, and we brainstormed, but I did all the grunt work of writing the thing. And he made me do 16 versions of an ad that was almost there. So it was good enough, but it wasn't perfect, and he needed it to be perfect because he was going up against other A-list writers. In that game with A-list writers that the places like Boardroom and Rodale and Agora, because they have such good writers, you need to be a little more perfect than the average entrepreneur because you're going to win by 0.01%, and that will become the control, and you can lose by 0.01%, and a near perfect letter can become trash meat. Just because it got beat by a
That's why those are the guys you really want to pay attention to. You want to be buying from Rodale. You want to be buying from Boardroom.
Those are the best
You want to
writers
be buying
in
from
the
Agora because they got the top. They're getting the top talent.
Oh, I'd say, at that time, there were 15 direct response writers worthy of writing for those guys in the world. There's probably a few more now, but it always seems to settle down to just a handful that figure it out and are willing to do that. But you don't need to be A-list. You need to understand what they're doing, but you don't need to approach that. But it's always good to know what the best in the biz are doing.
All right. Thank John. You will have